Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody around the world. And this is a presentation of Team ODIA, Odisha Doctors International Association. And let's start the program.
नमस्कार ओडिया डॉक्टर्स इंटरनेशनल एसोसिएशन तरफ आपण माने समस्त एकाठी होती गोटे वेबिनार माध्यम आपण समस्त को शुभेच्छा जनाऊँ समस्त को अभिनंदन जनाऊँ गोटे आज बहुत महत्वपूर्ण प्रसंग आपण माने एकाठी होती गोटे मास मूवमेंट करने गोटे जागरण तैयारी करने कोविड-19 पर वैक्सीन आज भारत में आसी सारी आम नागरिक मान भितर विशेष करके आम राज्यर लोक मान भितर या गोटे जागरण तैयारी कर दायित्व आपण मैंने नहीं गोटे भल उद्यम आपण मान प्रचेषा निश्चित भाव सफल हम या सब मोर आउ गोटे अनुरोध रही विश्वर जो विशेषज्ञ मैंने विभिन्न जगह अच्छा टेलीमेडिसिन गोटे बहुत बड़ समाधान आपण मानक माध्यम रे हो पारिबो केमती आगामी दिन में ओडिशार 4.5 कोटी लोकों को ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड रो हेल्थ कंसल्टेंसी दिया जाय पारिबो आपण संस्था ता विषय रे भी टिके आलोचना करले ता विषय टिके रास्ता बाहर करले हम राज्य तार लाभ पाता आपण मानकर स्पेशलाइजेशन रो लाभ पाता मु पुणे आपण समस्त को धन्यवाद दउची ये भलो उद्यम पाई साधु उद्यम पाई नमस्कार।
नमस्कार मु सब्यसाची आपण मानक समस्त को आज इनफॉर्मेटिव वेबिनार को स्वागत करुची। 2021 came with hope and the name of that hope is vaccine। किंतु से वैक्सीन को लेकी आमे समस्ते आम मन भितर बहुत क्वेश्चंस अच्छी आम मन भितर बहुत द्वंद्व अच्छी वैक्सीन नबा कथा नुहे विभिन्न प्रकार मिस इनफॉरमेशन मार्केट रे पूरा माने जेमती बहुत मात्रा रे रैपिडली स्प्रेड होची जहाँ फल लोक मान मन भितर विभिन्न प्रकार द्वंद्व आसुची वैक्सीन को लेकिन अवश्य आज से सबू जिनसर समाधान हम सबू द्वंद्व सबू क्वेश्चन आज से गुडा को आंसर करा जिवो आ से आंसर को करिवे हमर ग्लोबल एक्सपर्ट्स माने जो माने कि ओडिशा डॉक्टर्स इंटरनेशनल एसोसिएशन को रिप्रेजेंट करचंती एटा गोटे प्राउड मोमेंट जे एका थरे एते गुडे कंट्री रु एते विज्ञ व्यक्ति माने एकाठी हेचंती आ से माने हमर सबू प्रकार क्वेश्चन को क्लियर करिवे अवश्य ये समस्ते विज्ञ अच्छा समस्ते एक्सपर्ट अच्छा केवल मते छाड़ी मु रिप्रेजेंट करुचे आपण मानकु माने हम ऑडियंस को जो मान भितर वर्तमान बहुत प्रकार क्वेश्चंस अछि आई एम रिप्रेजेंटिंग एवरी डाउट आई एम रिप्रेजेंटिंग एवरी क्वेश्चन आ मु श्योर कि आज सबुतक क्वेश्चन आ सबुतक जो डाउट अछि से सबुतक समाधान हो जेहेतु मु फिल्म लाइन रो तो मु एटा को फिल्म वे रे ताको एक्सप्लेन करिवि प्रत्येक फिल्म रे गोटे क्लाइमैक्स थाए पैंडेमिक फिल्म रो क्लाइमैक्स होची वैक्सीन आ से वैक्सीन को लेकी केमिति आमे प्रिपेयर हबा कोन आम मन भितर डाउट्स अछि ताको आमे केमिति क्लियर करबा आ जेतबेले मन भितर डाउट थाए किबा द्वंद्व थाए किबा क्वेश्चन थाए जेतबेले आमे सटीक इन्फॉर्मेशन आमे पाऊ सेतबेले ऑटोमेटिकली सेटा आम मन भितर पुछि जाय सो टुडे दैट इज गोइंग टू हैपन आमे समस्त आज वैक्सीन को चिन्हिबा आमे समस्त आज वैक्सीन विषय निजो को अवगत करबा आ प्रोग्राम को स्टार्ट करबा पई वेबिनार को स्टार्ट करबा पई मु रिक्वेस्ट करबी आम कन्वेनर डॉक्टर देवाशीष रेन को टू स्टार्ट द शो।
Welcome and welcome to all our global audience and greetings from team for watching us and joining in our first ever groundbreaking webinar, COVID-19 vaccine, the story unfolds. This is Dr. Devashish Ray, and I welcome you all with open arms and feel privileged to be among you all. The world has been a puddle of mess thanks to COVID-19. 2020 was the year of COVID-19, and 2021 seems to be the year of COVID vaccines. It seems we have been trapped in a dystopian cycle of grief and gloom, and now confusion and chaos. 2020 has reset our life, our perspective, and realization of our mortal fragility. We may not have traveled outside our immediate access, but boy, oh boy, didn't we travel inward and around? Our inward journey helped us bond with family, friends, more, and helped us realize, recalibrate ourselves. Deprived of such social connections and interactions, we soon dived deep into our inner resiliency and embarked on our visual and virtual journey like WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, YouTube, Facebook. The world became a global village within the palm of a hand, controlled by our fingertips. We soon realized we connect better and quicker in our virtual world while in restricted mobility. This virtual webinar is a humble attempt by our team in its outreach effort to raise awareness of the COVID vaccine and remove some myths and perceptions about it. Please listen to these expert physicians from across the world, and they will not leave any stones unturned to convince you the positivity of the vaccination. We will also have a pictographic presentation of each country's state of affairs related to COVID and plan to have a robust question and answer sessions, taking all questions and answering them as time permits. Again, thank you all for joining, and I'm sure you will go home wiser after this webinar. Without further delay, I would let Dr. Rabin Mahanti, the moderator for the webinar, to roll in the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dev. Jai Jagannath. Namaskar. Hope you are all doing all right. Sudhura England ru mu Rabin Mahanti apanu swagato koruchi. 2020 is a year to forget and remember at the same time. Our invisible enemy, COVID, has declared war, but we are now able to respond to our enemy with new vaccines. Today we have 16 speakers from 4 continents with the common link, that is Odisha. They'll be talking about coronavirus, its testing, how it spreads, and vaccine enrollment in different countries. This talk will be unique for Odisha. The speakers are talking in both Odia and English. Amara also question and answer session madhya hobo. Ei presentation pore apan live question post kari paribe. Amar expert panel taku answer kariyaku chesta karibe. Dhanyabad. Au besi deri karibani. Asantu ame parichaya karai deba ama panelist manaku prathamare. So our panelists from US, they are Dr. Nitin Joshi, Dr. Atosu Naik, Dr. Bijay Thomas, Dr. Basanta Mahapatra, Dr. Tapti Panda. And our UK panelists are Dr. Lipi Pradhan, Dr. Aditya Singh, Dr. Prakash De, Dr. Siva Senapati, Dr. Santosh Patnaik, and Dr. Sudhanshu Patnaik. So I would like to welcome our first 2 speakers, Dr. Anindita Das, a microbiologist from Australia, and Dr. Lipsita Patnaik, a histopathologist from UK, to start their talk. So Anindita and Lipsita, the floor is yours. Please unmute and start your talk, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rabin. So as the virus causing COVID-19 is called SARS coronavirus 2, and in reality, it needs no introduction. But I will give a short introduction just to talk about how this virus actually originated, because if we want to plan for our future and if we want to have a better future, we need to understand how this virus actually originated. So many studies have shown that we have multiple viruses on Earth infecting various species, various life forms. So even plants get infected by viruses. But usually viruses don't jump the species barrier. For example, if there is a virus which infects plants, it won't infect an animal. And if it infects an animal, it won't infect human beings. So, but unfortunately, what happens in some situations, there is a genetic change in the virus, and due to some environmental conditions, and it can unfortunately jump the species barrier. And that is what has happened in coronaviruses, and also happens with flu viruses to some extent. So coronavirus, the origins are thought to be from the bat, and from the bat, it probably has been transmitted to different animal species. Again, this is not been confirmed yet, but it gets transmitted to several different animal species. And then from those animals, accidentally, sometimes it can jump to humans. And that is what has happened in 2019. And this happened previously as well, has happened several times. And the thought among scientists is that this might happen again in the future. Can I get the next slide, please? So we've known that the many viruses come from animals to humans, and then once the virus gets adjusted to the human body, actually it can transmit between humans quite well. And COVID has actually shown that it can transmit very well amongst humans. So if one person gets infected, in turn, that person can potentially infect 2 to 4 more people. And that is how it spreads. So the spread usually is when an infected person is talking or speaking, coughing and sneezing. And those particles that come out of their mouth and nose, if somebody is standing close to that person, they can inhale those particles and get infected. Or those particles can fall on common surfaces. And then when you touch those surfaces, the other people can get infected as well. Now, apart from human to human transmission, interestingly, with COVID, we've seen that humans in turn have transmitted this virus to other animals as well. So you might have heard and seen in news reports as well that a tiger in the New York Zoo got infected. And apart from that, there have been reports of cats and dogs getting infected as well. And many mink farms in Europe actually have got infected, and all those minks had to be killed to stop the spread of this virus. Can I get the next one, please? Now, COVID has shown that what global alliance can do. So interestingly, although the virus has wreaked havoc on society and has really disrupted our way of life, it has also encouraged people to share information with each other. Doesn't matter what your nationality is, doesn't matter where you live, people have shared information. And this has actually helped in progress of various methods to test for the virus, to find out drugs for the virus, to kill the virus, and also, of course, for vaccines. So within a few weeks of this infection getting recognized, scientists were actually able to culture the virus in the laboratory. And as a result, we could actually see the structure of the virus, know the genetic structure, makeup of the virus, what its proteins are. And in fact, this helped us set up tests to detect the virus. So usually, because this virus is mostly causes, cold-like symptoms, so it causes infection in the nose and the throat and can go down to the lungs. So we can take the swabs from the nose and throat of people and try to culture the virus in the laboratory. And apart from that, we can try to detect the genes of the virus by a technique called PCR. The third test by which we can detect the virus is we can try to directly detect the proteins or several parts of the virus, which is called as viral antigens. And the last way is to do a blood test where we will try and find antibodies against the virus. So amongst all these techniques, the ones that you have most commonly seen nowadays is probably the detection of antigen, which is a very quick test. And it can be done literally at home as well. So recent tests, probably in the next few months, tests will be marketed so that people can do them at home as well. Can I get the next slide, please? Now, what we have seen in medical literature is a literal deluge of publications on COVID. So one of the major publications that has happened in the last 6 months is authors have compared all these various tests. So which test is better? So every test has its advantages and disadvantages. So when we try and detect the genes of the virus, the genetic code, that test, if we conduct the test on, let's say, 100 people who are infected, we can detect at least 95 of those people. So we can find out 95 infections when there are actually 100 infections. And the other test that I was talking about, which is the very quick test, that is easy to do, it's less costly. But unfortunately, if we test 100 infected people, we'll probably find 50 to 60 people who are positive, but we'll miss 40 of infections. But that is something that we have to work on, and possibly as time goes on, we'll develop better tests as well. Next slide, please. Now, you might have heard about variants, viral variants in the news recently. So what happens is when this is a normal phenomenon in any virus. So when the virus spreads from one person to another, it is attacked by our own immune system. So the human immune system tries and control the virus. So as the virus spreads amongst many different humans with their many different kinds of immune mechanisms, the virus tries to outsmart our immune system and keep surviving. So it usually develops some changes in its genetic structure, which helps the virus survive our immune system. So even if our immune system produces antibodies, for example, the virus can escape that. So that is how variants are produced. So recently we have discovered that at least 3 major variants have been found across the world. And these variants are spreading faster. There are some reports that these variants are probably causing more deaths, but we are not entirely sure about that. Hopefully, we will find that out, whether this is true or not, soon enough. So how do we know that variants exist? Because whenever throughout the world, there is a global alliance where all countries send their data to one particular region, and all the viruses from different countries are actually genotyped. So we do a sort of genetic fingerprinting on the viruses. And if there is any significant change in the fingerprint, we call it a variant. So that is how these things are monitored. Can I get the next slide? So the 3 major variants which have been found up till now are the UK variant, the South African variant, and the Brazilian variant. So what does this mean for us? So usually it means that we will have to keep listening to our government health regulations. We still have to be aware that even though we have vaccines, we have to not congregate in large crowds. We have to maintain our hand washing, and we have to keep distance between each other. There is also a little bit of worry that cases may be missed, so we might not be able to detect all of the infections. And although vaccines have been already rolled out, there is a possibility that the vaccines might not be very effective against new variants. But still, there is a lot of hope because these vaccines can always be modified. And that is what happens with the flu vaccine every year. So it gets updated depending on the number of variants that keep rising. So I will now hand over to Dr. Lipsita, who will be talking about what happens when the virus infection occurs in the body, how the body acts on it, and how a vaccine can be made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. ମୁଁ Dr. Lipsita Patnaik, pathologist UK ରୁ କହୁଛି ନମସ୍କାର. Thank you, Dr. Anindita. That was a really nice talk. I will take over and just briefly mention on 3 areas of COVID-19. So COVID-19 is the infection part of the coronavirus. Next slide, please. We have all seen the structure. We are all famous and now kind of seen this spiky structure all over the place for the last 1 year. The thing to highlight is the S protein or the spike protein, the spiky substance on the surface. It is important for the virus to propagate the infection using this, and also important for us to develop the vaccine using the characteristics of the S protein. Next slide, please. Dr. Anindita has already detailed how we got infected. At one time, this was a zoonosis or an infection in the animals. And at some point, it came to humans. We are getting infected by droplets falling on surfaces and also traveling through the air. And once the infection passes through our nose, mouth, and goes into the respiratory system, it establishes itself and does something called a COVID pneumonia. That's the most common kind of presentation. You can also get infections of the other organs, including the gastrointestinal system, the brain, and other blood, and all the other things. Next slide, please. So this is kind of looks a very busy picture, but I'll take you through this. The star-like, ball-like substance on your left is the virus. So that is entering into our cell and is stimulating our body immune cells, the macrophages and the T cells, and they are producing chemical substances called chemokines. So there are lots of names. You don't need to know everything, but what it means that these chemical substances are stimulating our immune system or the body resistance system to produce, on one hand, antibodies, but on the other hand, also a response to kill the virus. So in that process, actually, a lot of struggle and fighting going on inside our cells. And alongside the virus dies, but also our body cells are also injured by a process called apoptosis. And so in this process, many of our body organs are infected and involved, and mainly it is in the lungs, producing something called ARDS or acute respiratory distress syndrome. Next slide, please. So as a pathologist, this is what I will see under the microscopes. I've just picked 4 important pictures. On your top right is the blood vessel, which is clotted by a blood clot pink colored substance. That means that it shows that the virus has produced some chemical substance and it has led to the occlusion of the blood vessels. On your top left is the pneumonia. Top and the bottom right left is the scar tissue that forms with the long-term infection and inflammation. And finally, the bottom right is the acute pneumonia with secondary bacterial inflammation. So what I'm trying to say, that the virus actually goes all the way into our body cells and changes our body. Next slide, please. And this is a graph to show that the hospitalization of our people are still ongoing in many of our countries, which is depicted in the graph on your left. And as per the figures, the recent figures, the infections are like 1 in 55 in England, 1 in 70 in Wales. going up to 1 in 110 in Scotland. And just mind you that a lot of the population actually are asymptomatic, about 17 to 20%. They wouldn't have any symptoms. That is why understanding this disease is very, very important. Next slide, please. Now, do we not have any resistance to fight the infection? We do. We have some, which will come through the natural infection and producing active antibodies against them. On the other hand, we can enhance this antibody or the resistance system by using the vaccines. That's what we are doing, which I would call it under artificially acquired and active immunization. Next slide, please. So this is an example to demonstrate that existing pathogens like measles, chickenpox, flu, these are all kind of infections we have gone through when we were little kids and through our young age. And we have produced existing antibodies in our body, and our body is very efficient in fighting these infections. Coronavirus is only 1 year old, and the body doesn't really recognize or recognizes it to a very minimum extent. So we have no antibody or very low antibody to actually fight the infection. So we need to enhance the antibody titer or antibody level in our body. Next, please. So what do we do it with? We do it with a vaccine. So vaccine is a tiny, weakened, non-dangerous fragment of the organism and includes part of the antigen. It is enough that our body can learn to build the specific antibody. So what if we all or most of us are given the vaccine, and over a period, we will develop something called herd immunity. So this is something like we help each other in the society and we kind of encounter and fight a virus together. Next, please. So there are various ways of making a vaccine. You could do it in these 4 main methods. You can use a killed virus. You can use part of a virus to teach the immune system to recognize the whole virus. You can also use attenuated vaccines, which means you use a weakened virus to trigger the immune response. But I'm very excited to tell you today that we are using some very new technique, which is, I put this in the red rectangle at the bottom right, and which is to tell that in this particular instance, we are using part of the virus RNA. This is an RNA virus that to produce some of our vaccines. Next, please. Typically, a vaccine would take ages, absolute years, which is demonstrated by the timeline I put in the left side. If we would have followed the conventional timeline, it would have taken up to 14 years to produce these vaccines. But look what we have achieved. We have achieved them in only 10 months. And many of them have reached the trials, and some of them are approved to use in countries worldwide. Next. So on the left, I am demonstrating that about 171 vaccines are in the preclinical phase, whereas we have got like 21 in the phase 3, and they are all making their way. Some of them will not be successful, but we will have plenty to play around and use worldwide. In the UK, typically, there are 3 vaccines approved by the government: AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and Moderna, out of which Pfizer and Moderna are the new technology vaccines. They're using the RNA of the virus, whereas the AstraZeneca is using a viral vector, a very kind of uninfected or dead virus they are using. We are also looking at in the UK to look forward to approval of Novavax and Janssen. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So vaccines are also kind of external substances, so we can develop side effects. They're not very common. They're usually mild and usually doesn't last more than a week. And sometimes you can have an allergic reaction, but that is extremely, extremely rare. ତେଣୁ ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କୁ ବନ୍ଧୁଗଣ ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଅନୁରୋଧ କରିବି ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କୁ ଭ୍ୟାକ୍ସିନ୍ ନିଅନ୍ତୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆସୁଛି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ସୁଯୋଗ। ମୁଁ ମୋର ଭ୍ୟାକ୍ସିନ୍ ନେଇ ସାରିଛି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା, ସବୁବେଳେ ଆମେ ହାତ ଧୋଉଥିବା, ମାସ୍କ ୟୁଜ୍ କରୁଥିବା ଆଉ ସାମାଜିକ ଦୂରତା ରଖୁଥିବା। ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ।
Thank you, Dr. Das and Dr. Patnaik. I'll invite Dr. Sahadev Swain, please.
ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମୋର ନମସ୍କାର, ମୋ ବନ୍ଧୁମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଶ୍ରୋତାଗଣଙ୍କୁ। Thank you, Lipsita and Anandita, for that excellent introductory presentation. I am Dr. Sahadev Swain. I am a GP in London. I am going to tell you the story of vaccine rollout in the UK. The picture in general in the UK is not very good. In a way, we are in our 3rd lockdown. And particularly the UK variant of the virus, as we had, is spreading quite quickly, and our hospitals are working in their full capacity. Unfortunately, not long ago, our death rates have exceeded 100,000. Probably that is 110,000 as we speak. Therefore, like other speakers have pointed out, the only hope of this year lies with the vaccines. Next slide, please. UK became the first country to approve the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, and as a matter of pride, and more so when on 30th of December the AstraZeneca vaccine was also approved. UK did take a pride because this was developed by our own Oxford University. And soon, next please, soon other vaccines were approved, and the Novavax soon to follow, with the hope that it has been shown to be effective for the new variant of the COVID vaccine, and Johnson & Johnson probably more than 60% effective with one vaccine as well. I'll take you back all to the day when the first vaccine was put into arms of Margaret Nunn. Big British boys don't cry, but even our health minister showed in public TV that he was crying. Those are the tears of hope, of relief, that the end is near, the end of this pandemic. We are at the beginning of it. Next, please. Therefore, our government is pushing the vaccination in a very war footing and with military zeal. Literally, the military is helping with the logistics. Our hospital doctors and the general practice is busy in delivering this vaccination. I'm glad to say that over 90% of over 80 people have been vaccinated now, and we have reached a total of more than 10 million. Actually, we are reaching 11 million of vaccination. That is how much speed we are going at. Next slide, please. UK has been proactive in ensuring more than adequate vaccine supply. So therefore, it remains, we are creating top priorities. We are going by priorities. As we know, the older you are, the more at risk of the disease and infection. Therefore, we are going first with the people. The top 4 priorities are elderly, their health and social care workers, and extremely clinically vulnerable people. So we are going for them first. We are hoping, next slide, please. We are hoping by middle of March, they will all be covered. And by middle of May, 50% of the population of the UK would have been covered by the vaccination. So no wonder we are at the top of the proportion of the citizens who have been vaccinated in the Western world. However, we are not without the challenges. Some of the challenges are universal, includes the anti-vaxxers, the misinformation, and the problem of logistics. But I'll take a minute to reflect on a problem that we think is very specific to us, which is among the Black, Asian, and ethnic minorities. These are the group who are more prone for the disease, and more people are dying from this community, probably explaining the regional variation in our country. Unfortunately, here, the rule of inverse proportion is applying. The people who need it most are showing an element, what we call now is vaccine hesitancy. So we are the leaders of the community, are the doctors in general and ODIA doctors in particular, have a responsibility to come forward to show the way that vaccine is safe and they should accept it. We have to deliver new methods of doing that. I will also draw in the final part of my talk an attention to something that is coming long after this epidemic or pandemic of COVID is gone. We will be left with something called infodemic, spread of wrong information. And I'm sure we, as ODIA doctors in general, will be able to take a lead role to create a vaccine against wrong information. I'm happy to say that I've been one of those lucky to have my 2 vaccines, and I want to finish this. Asantu ame samaste bahure bahu mileba. Kau prakar bahu jouthere injection lagi sarchi. Bahure bahu milibo, mahabahu khushi hebe, e corona pandemic dura hobo, jagatara mangal hobo. Jai Jagannath.
Thank you, Dr. Swain. We'll have the next speaker from Australia, Dr. Subrat Mishra.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the previous speaker. Thank you, the ODIA International Doctors Association for giving me opportunity. Jai Jagannath, mu Australia ro Dr. Subrat Mishra kochi. Again, Australia ta gote hochi mane obviously aji ame cricket bisare kotha bani aji mane we'll talk about coronavirus, but the Australia is actually a success story for corona virus, how to contain the coronavirus actually. In comparison to other countries, Australia is in a much better position thanks to the effective government policies, particularly hard lockdown. Plus, government katha they put on masks, there is a social distancing, they are washing hand regularly. So, although little bit hiccup hochi jota ki habo any community re, kintu Australia has shown the world that how to minimize the infections. Can you show in the next slide, please? So, upon the kontu, Australia total cases hochi 28,000, almost 29,000. Through death by now is less than 1,000. Although the first case started in around March, death is mostly less than 1,000. Most of the case kuda heichi because of the either quarantine breakdown, they are from overseas. So locally acquired cases are very less. That is because effective quarantine, effective tracing, contact tracing, effective communications to everything. Plus, vaccines Australia, we haven't started the vaccination yet. I mean, this is actually giving us a breathing time to look at the world and wait for an appropriate time to vaccinations. But we have already policies. They have started the policies of the vaccinations. The vaccinations promotion is going on in rampant now. So everything is done in a very appropriate, proper manner, phase-wise manner. So, mu apanku dekhiya chahchi next slides re came to Australia. What is Australia planning to do in a few months? So basically, Australia ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ସଂସ୍ଥା ଅଛି ସେଟା ଅଛି therapeutic goods of Australia. They approve all the vaccinations. ଆମର ଏବେ ସୁଦ୍ଧା ଗୋଟିଏ ହିଁ vaccine approve ହେଇଛି ସେଟା ଅଛି Pfizer Biotech. Australia government already ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ they have done some commitments to buy Pfizer Biotech's 10 million doses. They have also done from University of Oxford and AstraZeneca and Novavax. So most of the vaccines will be probably coming from Oxford, University of Oxford, AstraZeneca vaccines. But Pfizer OG first available is already available in Australia, and the vaccination will be started from next week or week after. Within the next couple of weeks, it will start. So would have mostly asuchi from offshore, kintu mostly US ro asuchi. But as everybody knows, probably Pfizer vaccine is cold chain maintenance is very, very important. You need to have a separate freezer for that. It is a very delicate vaccine. So you have to have. It is also most expensive vaccine among all other vaccines, because Australia government is only getting a lot less of that, and that will be given to the high risk group first. University of Oxford AstraZeneca is also available now. It is manufactured in Australia in monthly batches, and CSL that will manufacture the doses on behalf of AstraZeneca. And there is also Novavax, which is 51 million doses has already available for Australia. In 2021, there is a lot of discussions. It is not approved yet, but hopefully this will be approved. Let me just tell you about another indigenous Australian vaccines, as University of Queensland vaccines. Almost we were ready for the vaccine. It was phase 2 trial. They found that there is a false positive rate of HIV. AIDS positivity of 1 or 2% people got a false positive. That's why that vaccination has to be scrapped. The vaccine trial has to be scrapped. So ultimately, we have got only 3 vaccines now, but we are hoping that as we go and there is more vaccination development, then things will definitely improve. Next slide, please. Then another COVAX facilities. Australia government has joined a COVAX facility. COVAX is actually a global initiation. Gavi's global association vaccine initiation. There is about 118 countries are having that initiation, and there is a upfront payment of 123 million to purchase many vaccines for the Australian population. Australia's government is also committed for that, and that will be 50% of the population's by 2 doses regimen. Actually, vaccine always requires 2 doses in 21 days apart, and so 2 doses by that is sufficient. Australian government is now giving committed to give to the low other income countries like African countries, certain Asian countries, 80 million support to the vaccines for them. So Australia is committed to their country as well as to the other countries too, and which we want at this time, because this is World War IV, because this is basically humanity versus the virus, and all the countries should come together, which is they are doing most of the time, except some of the world leaders, as you know, will not go through to that. But now I think everybody is coming together to give the vaccinations to everyone. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, as I said, Australia has got a integrated vaccination strategy. We have to, vaccination rollout to be safe rollout, reliable and timely information. We are also supporting the jobs, guidance for the worker, employers, some of the supporting the jobs as well. We are having global partnership, and ultimately plan is to hard border close. We are actually reopened internationally to unite the families as well. We are not able to see our families for a long time. I lost my brother-in-law because of COVID, but I'm not able to go to India, and it's very, very unfortunate. That by this thing, at least we'll be able to meet now.
But we are exceeding the time. If you can wrap up, please.
Yeah, just quickly. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now, the rollout process is actually, as I said, we've already discussed about that. Mostly vaccination will be given by the hospital hubs. Then state-run clinics, general practices, we have already asked by the government to indicate our basically interest as well. And a lot of 5,000 GPs clinics have already advised. So then doses will be given, first dose and second dose will be given by health professionals, and then ongoing monitoring, safety monitoring will be done by the TGA. Next class, please.
Thank you, Subrat.
Yeah. So this is the phase. As I said, there are phase 3 phases.
Subrat, are you listening? Can we speed up a little bit, please?
Yeah, that's done. This is the last slide. So these are the 3 phases actually. Phase 1A and B is mostly the quarantine border worker, frontline health workers, and aged care person. Phase 1B is mostly other elderly. 2A is all other adults, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders between 18 to 54. And phase 2 is everybody else, balanced one. And
Okay.
actually, we are limiting less than 18 years people unless it is really indicated.
Thank you.
So I think I'll go.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you. I'll invite the next speaker, Mr. Anand Mahapatra. He's waiting. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody globally. I'm Dr. Anand Mahapatra. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I don't know what I'm doing in this seminar, but definitely maybe you can say that a round peg in a square hole. And Ireland is, as we talked about Australia, and as we heard from our previous speakers, necessity is the mother of invention. That's why this vaccine has been rolled out in a big way so quickly. Ireland is unusually, it is situated, it is in the British Isles, and it is, the best part is common travel. So although Ireland is divided, the Northern Ireland perspective is it's part of the British administered, and Southern Ireland is the Republic. So we, even if it's an island country, we had our own share of having a lot more cases compared to maybe New Zealand when you look at it. But it's because of the common travel area. We do not have border. It's a borderless Northern and Southern Ireland, and it was free to travel. We have huge amount of people coming into Ireland. It's a beautiful country for tourism, which could not be sort of restricted a lot, although a lot of thing has been decimated. So our total number of cases were close to about 27,000, and our total number of deaths were about 3,000 plus. Actually, we had about a second and maybe nearly a third wave there, and the Christmas wave is just finishing off at this stage, and the vaccination has been done at a very big way. Myself, I have had the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, and I think I would, say to everybody that you should go ahead and get these done. As soon as the vaccination starts, we should be the ones at the forefront. I know there are so many lay people who would be worried about it, but I think it's pretty safe. And my colleagues will also tell you more about. Next slide, please. I think the most important thing is as you see that if you're a frontline worker and you're the one who's taking the brunt of this disease, many of my colleagues and in the hospital were sick with this disease, so it is important the frontline workers have to be protected. And we have run a very good program with the only one that is started off here is the Pfizer-BioNTech, and the next one would come as an AstraZeneca. I know some of my UK colleagues will talk about mix and match between vaccines. I don't have much enough idea about that. But it's interesting enough that you'll see we have kept it that we have a huge amount of population which is elderly, and they have to be protected. So I would, without wasting more time, I'd go on to the next speaker. And thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mahapatra. So I'll invite Dr. Lipi Pradhan, who is speaking on behalf of Dr. Pitavas Misra from New Zealand.
Hello and namaskar to everybody. I'm Lipi Pradhan and I'm from UK, but I'm privileged to speak on behalf of Dr. Pitavasa Misra, who couldn't join us today. And it's about the wonderful New Zealand who have done so well. And under the leadership of their Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, I think it being an island country, and because they closed their borders so quickly, they managed to keep the infection rate quite low. And of a total cases of 2,315 cases, only 25 deaths have been reported in that country. They also started the trace and tracking methods pretty early. And I think the rest of the world has a lot to learn from New Zealand. Next slide, please. Yes, so the vaccines haven't yet been rolled out, and as Dr. Subrat Mishra said earlier from New Zealand, it's a wait and watch policy. They don't need to yet start the vaccination process, but they are going to start them soon, and they'll be available free of cost to the entire population of 5 million people. And they're also planning to provide the neighboring nations the vaccines, and they'll soon roll out the Pfizer, the Novavax, and the AstraZeneca ones. So that's my small, short presentation about New Zealand. But yes, as I said, we all have a lot to learn from that country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pradhan. Very nice, precise presentation. So we'll go to next speaker, Dr. Biswaman Biswal, who is speaking from Malaysia.
Okay, Malaysia ru namaskar. Au mu jane cancer specialist kintu mu ei topic pre kohuji. Mu Malaysia re dirgha 23 ବର୍ଷ ଧରି କାମ କରୁଛି. So next slide. So Malaysia actually this there are ଦୁଇ ଭାଗରେ East Malaysia, West Malaysia. Mostly East Malaysia is a little inaccessible sometimes, so there may be difficulty in the distribution of the the vaccines. Whereas West Malaysia is very well developed, well connected, and the health status is actually very good. And I actually work in the university hospital in the east part of the peninsular Malaysia, near to the Malaysia-Thailand border. And also I'm working in the KPJ post-specialist hospital in the west coast of peninsular Malaysia. So I have got the both experience of the both cultures on the either side. And the total population of Malaysia is actually maybe 10 million less than Odisha, and size-wise maybe double the size of Odisha. And particularly there are three major races in Malaysia. The number one is the Bumiputra, who are called Malay Muslims, and they constitute around 70% of the population. And the second one is the Chinese, and the native Indians, they're mostly Tamilians, constitute about 6 to 6.8% of the population. The next slide. Next slide. So coming to the rural Malaysia, you can see it looks very picturesque, but if you see the access of the healthcare is actually a problem there. Particularly many of the places, the people used to travel by boat or by helicopter. And that's why when you are using Pfizer vaccines, which need actually a very cold, refrigeration, which may be difficult in those situations. That's the reason Malaysia is planning a special kind of parallel vaccines so that which can reach to the right people. Next slide. And you can see that Malaysia was actually free from the COVID infection for last 1 year. We are very happy that numbers were less, though we saw 3 waves of COVID infestation. The number one is in January, the number 2 one is February, March, and the last one is October. But since last 2-3 weeks, the number actually climbed suddenly to more than 4,000 to 5,000. So now we have got total number of patients, total number of positive cases are around 234,000. And but surprisingly, the death rate is very low. It is around 840. And today, the total positive cases were only, I think, 3,391. Next time, next slide. And according to the estimate by the Ministry of Health, by March, probably we will exceed the number to 8,000. That's why now the government of Malaysia actually has imposed emergency. They lock up the borders, and everywhere there is movement control orders, and people cannot travel more than 10 kilometers from their place. Next slide. And so the Prime Minister of Malaysia just endorsed this national COVID-19 immunization plan, which was already done last month, and basically to cover 70% of the population, including the nationals and non-nationals, and all the people more than 18 years of age, and not months, age, and it will be given to everybody and it is free of cost, and they will provide 2 doses. Next slide. And the procurement of the vaccines is actually the major procurement will be from Pfizer BioNTech. And at the moment, actually, government is again sending another request to buy more from Pfizer BioNTech. And then total of around 40 million doses has been ordered from Pfizer, which will arrive on this month. And the second one is Oxford, AstraZeneca. The third one is from WHO COVAX facility, and the other 3 are Sinovac and CanSino Bio and Russian Sputnik vaccine. So these are actually, government is spending a lot of money to procure all this, because in Malaysia we don't actually make the vaccine. So we are depending on other countries to procure all these useful vaccines. And at the moment, in Malaysia, there is one clinical trial going on by the help of China, and about 9 hospitals are involved in this study, and by around 13 months, this study will complete. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. The government is planning to vaccinate in 3 phases. The phase 1 will start from March 2021 to all the frontliners, particularly the medical and non-medical personnel, and about 500,000 people will be vaccinated. And in the phase 2, which will start around May 21, to the elderly people and the sick people, particularly the cancer patients, obese patients, hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease, and disabled people. This include around 6.5 million people. And the phase 3 is actually will start from August to all rest of the people who are more than 18 years of age. And it include around 16 million people. So there is another concept given by our Science and Technology Minister to do ring vaccination to the very high risk zone, particularly in the prisons, detention centers, and particularly in the factories where many foreign workers are working in one place. And these are the places recently got many cases, positive cases. Next slide. So this is one of the controversial issues in Malaysia, because Malaysia is always champion in the halal issues. Particularly, it has got a lot of ethical concerns, though, and also a lot of misinformation coming. So 3M is the company which is providing adjuvants or the stabilizer for the Pfizer vaccine, which also contain human embryo kidney cells. So all the Muslims want to know actually whether this one is halal or not. So far, the Sinovac from China is claiming that this is halal compatible. That's the reason why Indonesia is a big Muslim country actually started using, but until now, China has not concluded whether this contain any animal origin or not. So that's the reason why Malaysia is planning to establish a biggest world, largest pharmaceutical factory to produce halal certified vaccine by 2022. So far, the people who are in charge of the halal, they are asking government to formulate and then present to the King of Malaysia very soon.
Yeah.
Next slide. Yeah, I'm finishing. So there are a lot of misconception going on. That's why few people actually started some of the website to ventilate in their ideas how to to tell people that this is which is correct one. So there are many people who are working in Malaysia now. That's all my presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Dr. Sucharita Hota from Singapore.
किंतु सुचरिता होता सिंगापुर कहवा पूर्व मु टिके एठी आसी जाउची समस्त पाखु पुणी थरे जेमति सब प्रोग्राम रे ब्रेक्स थाए सब प्रोग्राम रे कमर्शियल ब्रेक थाए तो वर्तमान मु टिके गोटे ब्रेक नै कि आसुची अवश्य ए ब्रेक रे मु आपन मन को वैक्सीन देई परिबिनी वैक्सीन न देई पारले भी किछि इंटरेस्टिंग कथा कहि परिबी जोटा कि डेफिनेटली हमर बहुत जन ऑडियंस अछंती जो माने हमकु लाइव देखुचंती फेसबुक रे देखुचंती यूट्यूब रे देखुचंती एवं हमर एठी जूम रे भी बहुत जन लाइव ऑडियंस हम पाके जोड़ी के छंती गोटे कथा मु कहि परिबी जे आज जेतले ମୁଁ ଯେମିତି କହିଥିଲି ଯେ ଏଣ୍ଟାयर ପ୍ୟାନେଲ ରେ एक्सपर्ट नुहे और बाकी समस्त एक्सपर्ट अछंती किंतु थैंक्स टू आवर एक्सपर्ट्स से माने जते सिंपल वे रे आ जते बढ़िया स्लाइड्स माध्यम रे ताकर इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर करचंती गोटे लेमैन हे कि भी हमें से जिंस को बुझी परचु आ से बुझीबाटा आम मानक मन भितर थिबा जो भय आ डर को बहुत मात्रा रे दूरेई दोची आ इनफैक्ट आई एम वेटिंग कि केतबेला हमर क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन स्टार्ट होबो है ना बहुत विभिन्न प्रकार क्वेश्चन सब आम मानक मन भितर अछि विभिन्न क्वेश्चन भितर सबुटु इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन जोटा माने इवन मो मन भितर भी अच्छी जे फोड़ा फोड़ी जो कथाटा नुहे कि इंजेक्शन फोड़ा फोड़ी सेटा भारी टेंशन जिनस जदि टैबलेट दे दियंते आमे टक्किना गिली दियंतो आमे वैक्सीनेटेड ही गलो फील करंतु किंतु जदि हमर एते एक्सपर्ट्स अछंती डेफिनेटली विथ टाइम आपण मानक एफर्ट रे जदि गोटे टैबलेट आपण मो पाखु पठे देबे ताले मु बेसी रादर बहुत खुशी हिजबी वर्तमान आज एबर एबे जो ब्रेक टा को हमें 8 एंड करबा हमें जीवा हमर नेक्स्ट स्पीकर के पाखु आ सुनिबा आउरी किछि वैल्यूएबल इंफॉर्मेशंस
थैंक यू सब्यसाची टैबलेट बदल रे मु भाबुची नाक भीतर भी देई हबो गोटे वैक्सीन तैयारी करा हबो लाइक फ्लू वैक्सीन बढिया सेटा आसी पारे माने सेटा गोटे पॉसिबिलिटी अछि दे आर एक्सपेरिमेंटिंग प्रोबब्ली ऑन इट थैंक यू सो विल इनवाइट आवर नेक्स्ट स्पीकर invite Dr. Dubey from UAE.
Thank you, Sabyasachi. हम पे निश्चय टैबलेट टीका हमें दबा. It will take time. So coming to our coronavirus, novel coronavirus brought a lot of uncertainty, and we all know uncertainty brings fear. We were scared, and when we are scared and we look desperately for information, there is a possibility that we will receive misinformation in some other form. That has happened for the coronavirus vaccines. So here we are. This is an humble attempt to give you a reliable information so that you can make a decision for yourself and your family so that you can be protected. So I am Dr. Rajni. I'm a professor of gynecology, and I am going to walk you through the UAE scenario. Next, please. So this is UAE, United Arab Emirates. It consists of 7 emirates, and we are a small country because most of this is desert and people do not live there. We have done a lot of testings. So it is beyond 20 million testings. 1.13%, that is just over 2 lakhs are positive. Most of the people have recovered. Death rate is only 798 so far, which is less than 2 in 100. So we have done quite a good thing about it. Next, please. Yeah, so we have 2 types of vaccines here. One is Sinopharm from China, and another is Pfizer. The target was to give vaccine to more than 10 million population, and we have achieved so far 25.8% of it, that is 1 in 4. The order of vaccination followed here is first the healthcare workers, then we will vaccinate seniors, high-risk patients, and then general population. As happened with every other country, the challenges here is misinformation, and misinformation, but we are catching up. The Health Authority Abu Dhabi has said, unless you get vaccination, you have to do a corona testing every 7 days. We have started different plans and facilities for those who have been vaccinated. So they actually get some discounts on purchase and their dinings and all that. So a lot of facilitation is coming from the government as well as non-governmental organizations. Next, please. So coming to vaccine trials, the Ministry of Health and Prevention, in collaboration with Department of Health Abu Dhabi, they reviewed the Sinopharm vaccine and they found that it is very efficacious. It is more than 100% more effective for preventing serious disease. There may be some person who will get a disease after being vaccinated, but definitely it will not be a severe disease. And we have not received any serious safety concerns. The phase 3 trial has included more than 31,000 volunteers across 125 nationalities in UAE alone. We have that many nationalities here, and we have included all of them. We did not find any other safety concern. We have all taken the vaccines, including me, and there were no safety concerns. I did not even get a flu or a body ache. Of course, it's a tika, like Sabyachachi said. It's an injection, so you will get some pain at the site of injection. Other than that, it is unlikely that you will get something. Yes, so get the tika, get vaccinated. Jai Jagannath.
Thank you. We'll invite our previous speaker, Dr. Sucharita Hota, to join again, if possible. Are you okay, Dr. Hota? Can you present?
I think she's having audio issues. I can move to the next.
Okay, we'll move to the next speaker then. Will be Dr. Das from Oman will be our next speaker. I invite Dr. Das.
Good evening. Am I audible? Good evening. Namaskar from the oldest Arab independent country, Oman, Sultanate of Oman. Can we go to the next slide? Maybe that would be more effective of describing. Now, Oman is in the Arab Peninsula. It's very well demarcated. Size-wise, it is almost twice the size of Odisha. Population-wise, it is 1/10 the population of. Population-wise, it is 1/10 the population of Odisha, about 4.8 million. Now, we had our cases of COVID, which peaked in the later month of May and June to 1,000 plus per day, to reduce it down to right now between 188 cases per day right now. So total number of cases we had so far is 133,000 plus, and death was only 1.1% at 1,527. Total number of active cases so far is around 6,000, and 94.6% have recovered. And giving a little idea of the distribution, a good part being desert and mountain, the distribution as you see in the map, the northern part and a bit of Salalah, which is in the southern part, are having a concentration where the virus was seen or is effective. And the vaccine which has started, it started in December. Among the 43 countries which started with the vaccination in December, Oman being one of the few countries which started in December itself. Next slide, please. So what Sabyasachi was mentioning, and few others have doubts, that a vaccine, when it comes to the market, takes almost 8-10 years. And how come not one, not two, but more than 6 vaccines right now across the world in such a short notice? Are they effective? Are they real? Or is it just a gimmick, which many believe to be just money benders? Now, every vaccines or every medicines undergo phase 1 to phase 3 to phase 4 trial, phase 3B, after which it goes to the market. Now, all these vaccines happen to be effective, happen to be right now, after the trial have been used, found to be successful, are effective. In Oman, we received around 27,000 of Pfizer's vaccine in December, and we have completed around 27,000 of first dose and 8,000 of second dose of Pfizer, and without any casualty, without any sort of any eventualities. We have received around 1 million of AstraZeneca vaccine from India, which has started right now. 3 days back it was received, and we are started the vaccination. So far there has been no reactions, no stories of all the myths which are floating have been found to be untrue. India and Oman goes back almost 5,000 years of history they have, and this is how the government of India bonded further with Oman by giving 1 lakh vaccines free. Now, if we look at the vaccines as they stand, there has been issues that X vaccine is better or Y vaccine is better. Let us wait for the vaccine which is the best. Now, as our moderators are going to answer a few of the questions that may arise, all these vaccines are equally good. They are going to be effective. Help in the herd immunity is going to help us fight this World War IV, as Dr. Subrat has put it in. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
So we have so far covered only 0.4% of the population as on 30th January. With AstraZeneca vaccine, we'll be covering almost 10 to 15% of the population. And the population of seniors, healthcare workers, and high-risk patients will be tackled first. Then the general population will be exposed to it. Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you. I think we'll invite again Dr. Sucharita Hota again from Singapore. Hopes he will be able to join, and there won't be any hiccup, I think, this time. Let's see.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. You can start.
We can hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present the situation in Singapore. As we all know, each country is trying their very best to fight against this COVID disease. I'll just give some very few statistics. I mean, we have seen a lot of data slides. So far in Singapore, we have a good situation. If you see, our death rate is pretty low compared to a lot of countries. We only have had 29 deaths so far. Total number of cases is 59,000 approximately. Currently in our hospitals, we have about 275 active cases. This data is as per yesterday, 5th of February. If you see our community cases on the right side, there is a small graph. Is very low actually. It's about 2,000 plus cases. And if you have been following the story of Singapore, we had a big outbreak in our migrant workers dormitories. We have about 300,000 plus dormitory workers here, and there was an outbreak there which flared up around March, and it came down. It was pretty well controlled by June, July. Next slide, please. Next slide. Singapore is a small country. It is a city-state country. Our total population is about 5.8 million. As of today, we have had about 155,000 of the population vaccinated. The government has promised to complete vaccination by the end of Q3 or likely Q4 of this year. As with all countries, vaccine has been prioritized. And we don't have, it's not like how in the US or other countries, it's like phase 1, phase 2, or whatever, but it's basically our frontline. The first round of vaccinations is being given to our frontline workers, our healthcare workers. We have just recently started vaccinating our elderly, the above 70, who are the high risk population. And if you see our priority groups here, I've just put pictures there. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. In Singapore, we only have the Pfizer vaccine for now. We have, which is the messenger RNA vaccine. This was, we have secured enough vaccine doses for now for our frontline workers and elderly population. Only about 2 or 3 days ago, our government has approved Moderna vaccine, which is going to be coming soon in March. So far, our experience here is the Pfizer vaccine has been pretty safe. We have only had 4 very serious adverse events, and it was quickly cured. Next slide, please. Next slide. So we have had a very senior people coming on TV, coming in the newspaper, giving talks to tell our population, because there was a survey done and initially people were pretty scared. This is a new vaccine. It is being rolled out very fast. Some are still in their clinical trial phases. We have a picture. We saw our Prime Minister come here. Prime Minister was he came on TV, he took his first dose, he has taken his second dose already. In the center, you see a photo. They are the vaccination task force ministers, our health minister, education minister. Pfizer vaccine seems pretty, so far we have, they are showing 95% efficacy after the second dose. The issue here is, if you all must be following the story, it has to be stored at minus 70 degrees centigrade. Our hospitals are not equipped to store this, so this is centrally stored in the ministry, and this is supplied every day. We need to submit our weekly quota, and every day there are supplies of the vaccine to the various hospitals and the GP centers. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, this is just some more pictures. I didn't take a selfie or a picture. I myself have taken the first dose. There's my vaccination card, which I'm very proud of having it. And I'm hoping that with this, and after I take my second dose, I'll be able to go and visit my family. Like all of us here, all of you watching, we have not been able to travel out, go visit our family members and our loved ones. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is just how some of our, we did a survey first and we found that about only 40% of our staff were ready to take the vaccination in our hospitals. In my cluster or academic medical center, we are looking at about 4 general hospitals and multiple GP clinics. We had the CEO, the medical directors, they come and they give talks, they answer questions, they have town halls. We even have the ministers doing this to allay the anxieties of the population. Next slide, please. Next slide. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's quite informative from Singapore. So we'll move on to the next presenter, Dr. Mahapatra and Dr. Paddy from Maldives. Can I invite Dr. Bhavani Mahapatra? Can you join?
I'm Dr. Sunita Kouchi, Maldives.
Okay.
Namaskar. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Sunita from Maldives, working as pathologist here. So, can I have the next slide? Can I have the slide? Yeah. So when the whole world is affected by global pandemic, Maldives has also been affected. The first case was detected on March 7, 2020 from an Italian tourist. Though it is a small, beautiful island country with population between 4 to 5 lakhs, it has been badly affected due to inflow of large number of tourists, especially from European countries. So as of today, the status of COVID-19 is like daily we have 120 to 130 new cases, and so far we have confirmed cases of 16,500, and total number death is gone up to 54. Next slide, please. So as you all know, Maldives, India has donated vaccines to its neighboring countries. So among these countries, the Maldives was the first country to receive 1 lakh doses on 20th of January 2021.
Sabir.
Dr. Sunita, unmute yourself, please.
So, hello.
Go ahead.
Hello. Yeah. So, as you all know, shall I start from the second slide?
Yeah, go on. As you are talking, just go on with this slide, please.
Okay. So, as you all know, India has donated vaccines to its neighboring countries. So, Maldives was the first country to receive 1 lakh doses on 20th of January 2021 as a gift from India. So Maldivian government was a bit hesitant to initiate vaccination program without any approval from WHO. Then what happened? It got approval from FDA in Maldives. On 1st of February, it started its vaccination program, and it was decided to cover in 3 phases. In first phase, they vaccinated on 1st of February. They vaccinated the frontline healthcare workers, and from today onward, they have started to vaccinate elderly people and those who are having comorbidity. Elderly people means above 55 years of age, and lastly, they will vaccinate rest of the people and frontline or other frontline workers and those who are more than 18 years old. So the perception of public before the vaccination started, the perception of public was kind of mixed reaction because they were scared of side effects and there was a doubt about its efficacy. So our role was to build trust and confidence in vaccine by telling the public its advantage, safety, and efficacy, and giving examples of all our friends, doctors who all have taken throughout the world the vaccines without having much of complication and side effects.
Thank you. Yeah.
The steps to control is maintaining social distancing, use of sanitizer, and mask is still going on, and they are doing RT-PCR rampantly. No one can enter the country without having a negative RT-PCR report, and 10 days of quarantine is mandatory. So before ending it, I want to quote a very good global health slogan like "No one is safe until everyone is safe."
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have taken the vaccine. Mu vaccine nahi sarchi. More kiसी side effect है नहीं. Both mild side effect like little fever or pain at the side. So everyone can vaccinate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think before we move on to India, is Sabya or Dr. Mahapatra, Basant Mahapatra, or Lipi Pradhan, do you have any questions or anything interesting coming up?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Obviously, question ta mane mu kon pacharibi mane dekhantu. Here I represent general public. जनरल पब्लिक को पाखरे एते गुडे क्वेश्चन अछि जे माने मु कोठु आरंभ करबी जानि परनी किंतु आपण समस्त कर मने थिबो इवन हमें जो वर्तमान लाइव अछु हमकु YouTube रे बहुत जण देखुचंती ताकर YouTube रे वर्तमान चैट भी ओपन हे जाईची सेमान तांका क्वेश्चंस भी लिखुचंती कमेंट्स भी दोचंती त समस्त को मु गोटे कथा रिमाइंड करबी जे 24 आवर्स बिफोर आमे गोटे टीजर पोस्ट करथिलु जो टीजर को हमर ओडिशा डॉक्टर्स इंटरनेशनल एसोसिएशन रो कल्चरल विंग प्रिपेयर करथिले आउ डॉक्टर्स माने एक्ट करथिले जनरल पब्लिक हेगिरी आउ सेतरे बसंत भाई भी गोटे मॉडरेटर हिसाब रे से टीजर से थिले तो बसंत भाई आपण जने डॉक्टर एंड स्टिल सेइथरे आपण गोटे जनरल पब्लिक हे कि समस्त गोटू क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू कोविड आपण नैथिले तो जने डॉक्टर होबाटा इजी ना जने जनरल पब्लिक होबाटा बेसी इजी एटा मु बसंत भाई को जानिया पई चाहिबी
अच्छा पब्लिक हेबाटा मु भाबुची डिफिकल्ट फॉर अस बुझले कि आमे डॉक्टर हे इज नॉट इजी टू बी ए पब्लिक मो पाई यू नो आई डोंट नो पर्सनली तमे पब्लिक हिसाब कहि परिबो कारण बट मु तमको धन्यवाद देबी ए जो हमर जो टीजर हिची ता छडा मु एई ये गोटे पब्लिक को मधे मु गोटे क्वेश्चन पचारि इफ यू अलाउ मी जो माने व्यूअर्स अछंती मते हमहु लेखि चार्ट रे दियो जे केते जण तमे काडा पिउछ एवरीडे टू प्रिवेंट कोरोना तेणु
ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ୍ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ମୁହଁଟା ଆଜି ଶୁଖିକି ଅଛି ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ଆପଣ କାଢା ପିଇଛନ୍ତି କି ଭାଉଜ ଆଜି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ରାଗିଛନ୍ତି କିନ୍ତୁ କାହିଁକି ଆଜି ଆପଣ ଟିକେ ଶୁଖିଲା ଶୁଖିଲା ଲାଗୁଛନ୍ତି ଖାଲି କପଟା ଓପ୍ସ
ମୁଁ just ପାଣି ପିଉଛି
ମୁଁ ସେଥିରେ କହିବି କାଢା actually is so tasty if you add all these different things to it. It's a very tasty brew. सेटा कोविड कमेबो कि नहीं मु जानिनी किंतु हम सब पी की भारी एंजॉय करछु सेटा अब इंडिया रे तो आई थिंक माय एंटायर फैमिली इज हैविंग टर्मरिक कैप्सूल्स समस्त कोविड जाओ न जाओ किंतु लॉन्जेविटी तो निश्चय बढ़ जाइथो स्किन इज गेटिंग इट्स ग्लोइंग आई थिंक इट्स रियली वर्किंग वेल इन सम वेज या
काढ़ा माने पिउचंती आमे क्रिटिसाइज करनो इट्स अ गुड थिंग आम माने देखुचन इंडिया रे इन्फेक्शन रेट बहुत कम देयर इज समथिंग हैपनिंग आमे जानिनु कोन होउची आई जो आमे जो पिउचु ए जिंस इंडिया रे करछन समथिंग वर्किंग बट वी कैन गो बैक देवासी
हां एटा बढ़िया एटा इंडिया माटी रो कथा इंडिया माटी समस्त ठीक कर दोची काढ़ा पियंतु पानी पियंतु जहा पियंतु एटा इंडिया माटी
the chat joining. What about vodka? Little bit vodka.
Vodka.
The next one. Next slide.
We'll go to next speaker. I think everyone is waiting for India and Odisha actually. Yeah. So we'll go to India's speaker and listen to them. What is happening there? Is it TADA or whatever is helping them?
Yes.
Not to get vaccine. Yeah, they're all getting vaccines now. Okay. Dr. Mishra, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Robin. And greetings from Gurgaon near Delhi, Apna Sarda, Delhi. And it was a nice interjection of entertainment between this series of COVID and vaccines. Yeah, kada is good. Kada is good for health. We have seen our grandparents, parents drinking it. But Government of India guidelines says कि vaccine के बाद don't have alcohol for 45 days. Right? So that's a contraindication. Okay, can I have the first slide, please? Okay, we know India, a big country, and everybody expected big problems. But fortunately, problems haven't been that big. The COVID has been a little under control compared to a lot of other places in the globe. As of now, so many samples, 199 million samples have been tested. We have about 1 crore plus infections. People have tested positive, and we have about 1.5 lakh deaths. Compared to a size of our population, I think it's not it's bad. I mean, a single death is bad, but it's not that bad. Now we'll talk a little bit, and if you can see, our peak was there in the month of September, October. Now the rate of infection has gone down very dramatically, but then we do not give any room for complacency. We still are promoting mask and hand washing, because though vaccines have rolled out, it reach out to the whole community. It will take time. So we continue with the masks and vaccines, and we hope that we don't have a second wave like in many other countries have it. The vaccine was initiated on 16 January. I think we all know in India that it was a much awaited thing. And as of today, as of now, we are speaking 5.5 million health workers and frontline workers have been vaccinated. Next slide, please. Now, there has been a lot of discussion about the vaccines, whether we should have imported, but then luckily for us, we had our Indian companies who come up with 2 kinds of vaccines, which have been approved by an expert committee, which includes ICMR and other experts in the field. And finally, the Ministry of Health approved. One is Covishield, Serum, Oxford, AstraZeneca, in partnership with the Serum Institute in Pune. And the second one is Covaxin, which is Bharat Biotech with our own ICMR and National Institute of Virology in Pune. It was rolled out in a phased manner. It is free of cost, given to everybody. And it was rolled out in a phased manner because in a country like India with a huge population, managing the logistics would have been difficult. So we had a priority population. People will go to a particular time and a particular place. They will be assigned a time and place through their COVID app. You go and get your shots there. And it was rolled out simultaneously across all states. It's not that Delhi mein pehle aaya, Maharashtra mein baad mein aaya, Odisha mein baad mein, everywhere it was rolled out at the same time. We had some priority health groups. So the healthcare staff were the first one. They were in the front line, the doctors, nurses, and other paramedics. Then we had the frontline staff, the support staff working in hospitals and other healthcare facilities. Then this is right now it's going on. It will be some time before we complete the 1 crore health staff and 2 crores frontline workers. So 3 crore people to be vaccinated, and we have reached only about 5.5 million. But the next thing which India will be starting simultaneously from March onwards, or mid-March or end March, will be people with above the age of 50 years. And any persons with comorbidities, like any underlying illnesses, those will be defined very clearly. What are those comorbidities? So those people will be the next category of people to be vaccinated. Next slide, please. No, there has been a lot of discussion, which is good and which is bad. And we doctors, we have become a little more knowledgeable, because abhi tak this, whatever these vaccines has been to doctors and nurses. And we are the ones who had been questioning which is good and which is not good. Well, after 5.5 million first dose injections, we have found there's no difference between the two vaccines. Yes, the Oxford vaccine, Serum Institute vaccine had gone through a phase 3 trial. They had the data. Bharat Biotech's Covaxin didn't have the phase 3 data ready. So that was the only thing that was of concern. But the expert group must have sat over it and thought it to be right to release these two vaccines. So both the vaccines are working quite well in the field. So there is no which one is good or which one is bad. Both are equally good. Both are similarly, they are stored at 2 to 8 degrees C. In a country like India, it's easy to...
Dr. Mishra, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, when did I stop?
Yeah,
okay, just to say that both the vaccines are equally good. We have 5.5 million injections which have been given across the country with both the vaccines. So both the vaccines have been very well accepted with minimal side effects. And of course, you say that injection mein kuch nahi hoga. It's not possible. Injection mein haath mein thoda dard hoga. You will have a little bit of a redness. You will have a little bit of stiffness in your upper arm. You'll have a mild fever, but has all been minimal. A few deaths which have been reported in the press till now, as per the post-mortem report, they have not been linked to any vaccine-related deaths. So I think we can safely go on promoting, and as doctors, we have a responsibility. Hum log pehle lenge, then the general community will look up at us and see that if they have taken it, then we can also take it. Next slide, please. As I said, after 5.5 million infections, we have had very minimal side effects. Vaccination is voluntary. I mean, as I said, we cannot force people to take a vaccine, but then everybody is encouraged to take vaccine. There's a lot of awareness, a lot of advocacy going on so that people can come forward and take these vaccines. Now, regarding whether I should take this vaccine, etc., to the general community and also to the physicians, apna physician mat baniye. Please do not become your own physicians. Please share your illnesses with your family physician. Let him or her decide in consultation with you whether I'm fit. There are certain conditions which should not be taken. As I said, the vaccines have not been approved for children below 18, for pregnancy, and also for people who have uncontrolled diabetes, hypertension. Till they are under control, you should not go for vaccine. Otherwise, so these things can easily be discussed with the physician before you go in for a vaccination. I think that's my last slide. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you, Dr. Mishra. I think the alcohol advice is a bit controversial in India. I think we're a bit more liberal in UK and US. This doesn't tally with the CDC advice. The deaths, I think around 2.5 per 1 million has been reported in a trial. So not many, very minuscule. Okay, so we'll go to the next presenter, Dr. Meena Som. She is giving the story from Odisha. So if you can start your talk, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Good evening and good morning across. I would like to first of all thank the organizers for this excellent initiative and for making me a part of this wonderful group. And it's a proud privilege to be presenting the Odisha story. As you can see, the results of the vaccination program has been pretty encouraging. In fact, the figures have increased up to 69% since this particular photograph has been taken. And after the initial hesitation, the healthcare workers are coming in, and almost nearly 70% have got vaccinated so far. Next, please. So the coverage has been improving. Now, this is regarding the disease burden in the state. As you can see, 335,000 positive cases, and active cases are right now only about 875, nearly 2,000 deaths, in fact, 1,906. The map on the right side, it shows the number of active cases in each of the districts. As you can see, Nuapada is white, which means there are no active cases currently. Kandhamali is showing 1, and as per today's graph, it's also become white. So you can see the number of cases, active cases across the districts has right now gone down. Next, please. And important to note that there have been no deaths. Video on. It's on. And it's important to note that there have been no deaths reported since the 25th of January this year. Next, please. This particular pie graph, this is about the age distribution of the COVID cases. As you can see, the blue, which is making up almost about 50% of the cases, is for the age group of 15 to 40 years. So it is the younger age group who have been mostly infected, and hence also a kind of complacency. Acha kichi haboni, ame young achu, amku symptoms nahi, kichi semti heini. And the next red portion of the pie is about 41 to 60 years of age group. The green is about the children, younger age group, which is less than 15 years, which is even so lesser. And this data is from the Odisha COVID dashboard. And this is created by the government of Odisha. So this is live, and you can see this graph is updated almost every day. And you can see the female population has been comparatively less infected as compared to the males. Next, please. Now, these are a few photographs of the vaccines coming in. As you can see, the first photograph is from near the airport. The vaccines come in, and the vaccines were taken to the state store. We have a state called vaccine storage store where the vaccines are stored. The storage criteria for these vaccines, Covishield and Covaxin, are 2 to 8 degrees. So they are kept at the vaccine store. And from there, from the state vaccine store, they are taken to the district vaccine stores and down to the respective facilities. The vaccination, next slide, please. And the vaccination, as already told by Dr. Mishra, has started from the 16th of January in the state. And in fact, I have put in a lot of photographs in my slides just to give you a flavor and a snapshot of what's happening in the state. This is a photograph from the district hospital of Malkangiri, in fact, the last district in the state. I think you have jumped. Yeah, thank you. Now, this vaccination has started across all districts simultaneously. In the COVID portal, all the healthcare workers have been registered, and they get a message on their mobile as to where to go and where will they get their shot. And using that, they go and take the vaccine. And these are the two kinds of vaccines which have been which have been started off in the state. And a dry run to see that how this will all be conducted was done on the 8th of January. Next, please. So there have been a lot of preparatory activities in terms of vaccine storage, vaccinators, getting vaccination sites ready. This was a little easier in the first phase because most of the beneficiaries were from within the healthcare system on the healthcare workers. So it's a little easier. Now the challenges will increase as the second cohort comes in. This is a snapshot of a few of the posters and communication materials which have been created. There is a communication strategy. There is an operational guideline which has been developed by the Ministry and the Government of India. Locally, all states have converted these communication materials into the respective languages, and they are displayed across wherever the relevant sites are. Next, please. So coming down to the vaccination status, the first cohort, the targeted number, the registered number was nearly 3.4 lakhs, of which as of 1st February, 61%, and as of today, almost 69% have been vaccinated. And adverse events following immunization were only 20. There have been no serious events. 2 were hospitalized but have recovered satisfactorily. So there have been no serious major issues. Now the vaccination of the second cohort of the frontline functionaries, which is the police, the paramilitary, revenue officials, panchayat officials, has just started off today. And in fact, the first people to be vaccinated among this cohort mostly are the superintendent of police and the collectors in the various districts to set the tone of the vaccination. On the left side, you can see photographs of the directors and the chief district medical officers in the districts getting vaccinated when the first round started. Next, please. The second dose of the healthcare workers will be provided on the 16th of February. I think it's 14th of February, they will be starting with the second dose. Now, what are the operational strengths? In fact, there have been, the rollout has been quite smooth in the state, if I could say so. There has been a huge lot of support from the key administration, the state level administration. All the departments have come together. There is very good coordination among all the departments. Micro planning, effective micro planning, which site, how many rooms, who will be the vaccinator, who will be the people coming in, are they all registered in the COVID app or not, what time will they come in? So all of these things, how many numbers per site, all of these have been actually meticulously worked out. In fact, the white transparent boxes which you see on the left panel are the AEFI boxes. There have been kits made ready just to handle any adverse events at the site of the vaccination. The photographs below will show you in an orderly how.
Lost you there.
I think so.
The audio.
She has muted herself.
Can you unmute, please, Mina?
Yeah. Okay. Is this better? Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
yes, yes, yeah. Go on.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Should I repeat this line?
No, we are good.
Okay. So
We are okay.
just this. Okay. So this talks about the operational strengths. There has been a very good coordination among all the departments, and there have been these AEFI kits to handle any adverse events at the site of the vaccination. And in the right photograph shows about the orderly fashion in which people are waiting and sitting to and taking for their turn to take the vaccine, and the left side are the registration desks. Next slide, please. Okay, now these are some more photographs. The bins are the biomedical waste management bins. There is a particular fashion in which of the waste, immunization waste, will be collected where, deposited where, the protocols to it. Then the other photographs are about the vaccination sites, how they're organized, and the Excel sheet in the middle of it shows the daily reporting. Every site reports daily in the evening to the Directorate of Family Welfare, to the immunization cell, where the reports are collated every day in the evening. Next, please. So all the vaccinators have been trained, people who the cold chain maintenance, all the staff have been trained. In fact, this is the last slide. What I would like to show here is on the 31st of January, the polio vaccination, the polio round actually continued. India has been declared polio free since 2014. So this is also another important event which we need to keep, we need to conduct to keep the population or to keep the children polio free. So despite COVID, the government has announced, and this round was continued on the 31st of January. These are the young children less than 5 years of age taking the polio drops. And the right photographs with the children with the pink dresses. This is about the Anganwadi centers. In fact, Odisha has about 70,000 Anganwadi centers, and these have reopened on the 1st of February after a gap of almost a year or 10 months.
Okay.
Now, these are platforms for these young children to come in and learn for a nutritious meal.
Yeah.
And what made me happy was the fact that the Anganwadi helper is teaching hand washing, and the children have picked up this part of hand washing as a regular protocol or a regular routine, and this will help not only prevent COVID but also the diarrheal diseases, which is very important in this part of the country. The left side again, it's an Anganwadi center in Malkangiri.
Thank you.
The photograph on the left shows the garden in a PHC. So these are a few snapshots of Odisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Som. Very informative talk about Odisha. Nice to see Odisha doing so well. And I think we have a video from Dr. Niranjan Misra, Director of Public Health. If you can play the video, please.
Hi all to all my friends abroad who have joined in this group. This is to say that we are doing exceedingly well in the state of Odisha as far as vaccination is concerned. I have a presentation Meena will be sharing with you. This is really good progress. The initial batch of healthcare workers vaccination is going on. In the second batch from today onwards, the frontline workers enrolled have vaccination has started. In the third proposed batch, there will be senior citizen above 50 years, they will be enrolled and will be vaccinated. We have also enrolled the frontline workers from revenue department like collectors, BDOs, tahsildars and all field workers of their department. They are also going to be vaccinated. So it is still a long list to go ahead, but whatever has been enlisted in the co-win portal, they are being allotted and given vaccine, and this process of scheduling vaccination, sending them messages and giving vaccine is going on very, very smoothly in our state. We hope the whole process will be carried forward with all plans and with all precautions. Till today, we have very few number of AEF reported. It is only 20 in number. They are all minor reactions, no major issues yet. So we are hopeful that in our long battle against COVID-19, this will be going to a decisive state because already we have reporting less than 100 new cases every day, and our active case load has come down below 1,000 at present, and with a testing level of around 25 to 25,000, we are getting only 70 to 100 cases every day. This is a good progress as far as our preparation in combating COVID-19 is concerned, and as you all know, we have also reported very less number of deaths. Overall, the preparation, planning, management on behalf of Odisha is exceedingly well to assure that all your relatives, friends here are in safe hands. Thanks all. This is really good that you are all talking about the vaccines, and we have, as you know, 2 homegrown vaccines being given to our citizen, and it will be studied further to know its efficacy and its safety. So thank you all.
That's an excellent message from Director of Public Health, Odisha. Let's, last but not the least, let's listen to United States, how they are doing post-election.
Hi there, good morning from the US and good evening to others as pertinent. Thank you to the organizers for doing this, and thank you to all the speakers who have done the wonderful presentations till now. My name is Sanjay Agarwal. I'm a pulmonary critical care and sleep medicine attending here in the US and California. And I'll be speaking on behalf of the US with Dr. Sangeeta Pradhan. Next slide, please. So I'll jump straight to this wonderful interactive map of the US, which is from New York Times. And it shows the hotspots at this moment on the as recent as 4th of February, all over the US. And as you can see, it's all red and green, red and orange. In spring, early spring, like last March, April, the northeast part of the US experienced the worst cases. And you can remember New York had a tough time. Temporary morgues in New York were all full. And as summer progressed, we had the Sun Belt in the southern area, which had a lot of spike of cases. And the western part did have worst, and along with the Midwest in early fall, so we're in around September, October. But now as the winter fell in and the new year set in, the virus seems to be just like everywhere, as you can see. Next slide, please. Sharing current data today, as of February 4th, the total number of cases in the United States is about 26.7 million. So just like the other presentations from the UK and which we saw, the three spikes, April, March, our previous president on the March first week, he was talking about 10 cases, which is true, but as it went up in April and in July, August, we see the second surge, and now the third surge, as expected, was really high. But luckily, in the last 14 days, as you can see, the surge is going down. The number of cases, 26.8 million. On February 4th, itself, the new cases diagnosed or identified were about 126,000. But the good thing is that there is 30% decline in the last 14 days. So 7 days ago, 2-week average was about 30% decline. Total number of deaths in the US leads the world at 456,000. And number of hospitalized patients on February 4th, at that particular day, moment was 88,668. In my hospital itself, where I'm going to be going in about next 1 hour, I'll be going back to ICU. I have about 60% of the hospital patients are currently having COVID, and about ICU is almost full, just about 2 beds left. So it is still a disaster, but in the Bay Area, California, the cases are coming down, the restrictions will be open, and the projected death in the US is about 600,000. Next slide, please. Next slide. So talking about the disease burden and then how we prevent, we talked about there's no doubt that the only way to protect this recurrent virus is keep maintaining your distance, putting the mask on, washing your hands, sanitizing, and keeping the distance on. But on contrary, the vaccines were important. As soon as we heard about the vaccination, heard about the virus last year, the big companies got into action. And from January onwards till the end of December, when all these vaccines came out, there were numerous vaccines strategies have been taken over all over the world. And about 160, 170 vaccine were developed at this particular moment on February 3rd, as noted by these three journalists in New York Times. About 36 vaccine companies are still in phase 1, 25 in phase 2, 20 in phase 3. 7 have been authorized or early use authorization, of which the 2 of them which are in US, which has been approved, are the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. Both of them are mRNA vaccines. And the other 2 are in the pipeline. I'll talk a little bit about Johnson & Johnson and Novavax as well. 4 of them have been abandoned, and the premium ones, big names, are Merck. And the approvals, of course, are these 3 companies. Next slide, please. So I'll talk a little bit about these Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. Both of them are Moderna vaccine, mRNA. It's just a messenger which goes into the cell. It does not mess up with your DNA. It's a very safe vaccine. It does not carry any dead or live virus particles. and it has been tested. Both of them have been tested very well. The Pfizer vaccine has been shown to have efficacy over 95%. The Moderna vaccine on the left lower corner have efficacy of 94.1%. And both these vaccines have been approved in many countries as emergency use authorization or approvals, including USA, Canada, European Union, UK, Switzerland, etc. Both these vaccines have 2 doses. One of them is 21, Pfizer is 21 days apart, is manufactured by BioNTech company in Germany, and in collaboration with Pfizer has been developed and has the research done. Moderna is totally from the US. And the third company is Johnson & Johnson, or Janssen one, which is in a different format. It's engineered the common cold virus, adenovirus number 26, which is engineered to contain the gene for SARS-CoV protein, spike 2 protein. All these 3 vaccines are a spike 2 protein, which generates the antibodies in the body. Efficacy, it just came out 2 days ago. The slide is a little bit old, just about 3 days old. So 2 days ago, vaccine, the ensemble trial of about 44,000 people from Johnson & Johnson were published with minimal side effects, including just allergies noted for the other 2 studies as well. 66 to 70% efficacious, and about 85% efficacious for preventing a severe disease. And phase 3 trials have already been published. They are going to apply for emergency use authorization here in the US this week, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, this will be approved as well. So we'll be having 3 different vaccinations in the US. Next slide, please. Looking at the 2 vaccines which we have in the US, Pfizer and the Moderna vaccinations. As you can see from these columns, I have placed 45,000 patients were enrolled in phase 3 trial for Pfizer. And as of December 21st, there were in 150 clinical sites, about 39 US states, and had extensive distribution, including 13% for Hispanic, 10% American, African American, 6% Asians, and also Native Americans. And so also included elderly age population of 56 to 85 years of age. Similarly, Moderna vaccine as of October 21st had 30,000 enrollment, of which about 25,000 or 90% had second dose. It was done in 32 different US states, and again was very diversely inclusive of Hispanic population, African American, Asians, and as well as the elderly age population. Now, both these vaccines are very safe. After the second dose, they waited for 8 weeks. This is a phase 3 trial where you have safety and efficacy proven. After 8 weeks of trial, there was hardly any errors or any serious side effects noted, except for some allergies, and these makes these vaccines very safe. There were always many questions which have been, some of my patients asked me as to why this vaccine has come out in about 10 months, and maybe it is not safe. But I just wanted to bring in as to why these were fast-paced is because a few things. One, these mRNA-based vaccines are easy to produce. All these government entities, including FDA, ACIP, CDC, all were focused in getting the vaccine out sooner, and all the red tapeism were taken off. There were channels which were already being established, and they were utilized to get these vaccines in order. And these vaccines were easy to mass produce. mRNA vaccines are slightly easier to scale up. And the more important thing is there was no wait lag from lab to actual production, because even though the lab was going on, in parallel, they start the manufacturing process. So essentially, on 11th of December 2020, the Pfizer vaccine got the emergency use authorization approval from FDA, and I got my first vaccine on 17th December and a second vaccine on the 8th of January. This would not have been possible in general if you had followed the regular trend. Next slide, please. Next slide. As of now, the vaccine status, we have 27 million people have been given these first dose, and about 7 million people in the US have got about second dose as well. So we had some hiccups in December when the rollout phase was there. Some days we would do about 100,000 vaccinations, and there was towards the end of December, we had one day where we almost did 3.5 million vaccinations. So that irregularity has somewhat now better controlled, and we're doing about 1.5 million vaccinations on a daily basis. So at an average, if you see about 900,000 dosage on a daily basis on February 4th, and as we progress, we expect that if we follow the ACIP, Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which is guiding the tier system of phase 1A, B, and C, which everybody's talked about. So if we follow these recommendations, by mid-July, we will be about 50% vaccinations to be done in the US population, and about 70% will be achieved by 23rd of September, maybe 90% by December 7th. So as is talked by the specialist, Dr. Fauci, we need about 70% to 90% of people to be vaccinated to get into the herd immunity to control further replication of the virus, or further replication also leads to not only poor control, but it also leads to variants of the mutations, variants, and these vaccinations may not be helpful. So the sooner we get in, the better it is. Hopefully with this new government coming in, our new president wants us to achieve that goal of 100 million people vaccinations to be done by about 100 days of first presidency. So hopefully with 1.5 million doses every day with more better control, we should be able to achieve that goal. Next slide, please. And I will pass on the baton to Dr. Sangeeta Pradhan, who will talk about the current status of vaccinations in the US.
Welcome, Sangeeta.
Namaskar. I'm Dr. Sangeeta Pradhan from Michigan, United States. बहुत serious information hai gala. We provided a lot of data and everything. So all I can say is United States, we've always been number one. Cases re bhi number one hai galo. And hopefully vaccine re bhi number one hai jibo. So good things I would like to share with all of you is everybody, my physician colleagues, friends, families, I have a question for you. Have you noticed that thanda, kasa, flu, strep throat, sabu kuade gala? All that has helped us all is the mask, the hand washing, and the social distancing. That's the proof of itself. When it comes to natural calamities, nature cures itself. So we have to be careful and carry on with the tradition. So this is just a slide. All this information is there on Google. You can look it up. We can just go to the next slide. Dr. Agarwal already told about this. This is Dr. Fauci again telling us that 70 to 80% of the US population has to be vaccinated. And this wide vaccination stops the replication. So we have to be vaccinated. I got my vaccine and both doses, no problems. And all I can tell is koti bhi kehi suni nathibe je vaccine pore gote severe side effect hechi which has limited you. But you have known that the disease has put so many people down. So please don't think of the side effect of the vaccine, rather think of the consequences, acute, short-term, and long-term chronic consequences that we don't even know what is in future if we were to get COVID. Next slide, please. Same thing, mask up, lather up, sleeves up. So get vaccinated. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal and Dr. Pradhan. Excellent presentation from all the presenters today. आपण माने अति सुंदर भाबरे कोरोना और वैक्सीन विषय रे आज बुझे देले हमें बहुत नुआ कथा सुनि सिखिलु आज COVID is a serious infection with high mortality, all of you know. Death number we have seen 500,000 in US nearly to only 25 in New Zealand. But the scientists have developed a new vaccine with a new concept, RNA vaccine, for the first time. The cheapest vaccine, Oxford vaccine, offers high level of protection after the first shot. It also reduces the transmission of the virus. But the final message is not the silver bullet. The final message is keep safe, be smart, and be kind. That's the message we need to give from this group. Thank you all. Then the Q&A session, I think needs to be moderated by Dr. Ray.
Hey, thank you all. Thank you, Rabin. And thank you all the presenters. And it was a wonderful session. It was little detailed because we have to dive little deep as physicians from all over the world. So the common people, our folks need to know a little bit. And we apologize for the depth. And there was little snag in the IT thing. We apologize, extremely apologize for this. And the YouTube chat was not working, but it worked. And I appreciate all your patience. And again, apologize for little snag here and there. Let's start with the question and answer sessions. And I'll have Dr. Santosh Patnaik also to moderate with me for the question and answers. I have printed out some questions from the audience, and Santosh Bhai also will also help me with those things, and we'll give it to the group for answering. Let's start. This is a question from Mr. Abhijit, a Sabya fan. My wife is pregnant and soon will be parents. How safe it is to go for vaccines during pregnancy or after delivery? I'm worried. So, Tapti, you want to take it?
Yes. Hello and namaskar, everyone. I'm Tapti Panda. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist, proud to be part of the ODIA team. 3 cheers to everybody who presented. Coming to that question, right now, there is no contraindication for pregnant women from getting the vaccine. Anybody who wants to get the vaccine, whether you have high blood pressure or diabetes, or anything during pregnancy, that does not prevent you from getting the vaccine. So rest assured, you can get it in your first, second, or third trimester. It does not make any difference. You will have similar side effects that anybody who is non-pregnant may get. The one thing one must remember is the problem of COVID during pregnancy is much larger than getting the vaccine during pregnancy. So pregnant women have a very bad immune system to begin with. So if once a pregnant woman gets COVID vaccine, the immune reaction is, and the response to that infection is very severe, and it can be very detrimental to mom and baby and cause even death sometimes. So vaccine is known to prevent such infection, and I would encourage all pregnant women, especially those who are at high risk. If you are a healthcare provider anywhere in the world, please step up and get your vaccines.
Thank you. The next question is from another email I got. Umesh Panda. I'm really confused. Which vaccine should I choose? This is a very common question. And I will have Rabin, Sadab Swai. You want to take it?
Yeah, not a problem. All the vaccines that we have heard today are very effective. So therefore, what is exciting about these vaccines is we are only looking at figure of 50% of efficacy to some vaccine to be effective. But to the surprise of the scientists, they're all more than 90% effective. So whichever vaccine you are getting nearer to you, please go for it. There is very little to choose from. So whatever is available to you, please go for it. At the moment, we are being advised to take the same two doses of the same vaccine. However, in future, there are trials. They may be able to mix and match, and they'll come up with the answer if that is better or not. So yes, they are very effective. Go for the one that you are getting near you.
Thank you, Dr. Swine. Next question is from a doctor, Bimal Chandra Mahapatra. It came in email. Has any study conducted so far suggests which vaccine, mRNA vector-borne spike protein vaccine or inactivated virus vaccine, is effective against various mutated variants, strains of coronavirus? Dr. Doshi, Nitin Doshi?
Yes, I'll be glad to answer that question, and thank you. So far, the Pfizer and Moderna trials, they've been done in the initial stage before the emergence of the variants. So they don't know exactly whether they would be effective or not. But lately, they've been found that at least they are able to, especially the Moderna vaccine was somewhat effective against the variant form. So far, with the use of Novavax, that was the latest trial, and they were used in the UK, so their effectiveness for UK has been pretty high, and almost overall their effectiveness has been 85%. But when you consider the UK strain, this almost goes up to 80 to 85%. So amongst all the three, Novavax seems to be proven effective against the variants compared to the other ones.
Thank you, Nitin Bhai. There's another question. It's a very common question. I got, I think, 3 or 4. Is the vaccine okay in patients with autoimmune disease? What if I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis and type 2 diabetes? UK team, Rabin, Santosh Bhai, you want to take it? Dr. Santosh Patnaik?
Yeah, I think I'm happy to take that. I think though I'm a neonatologist, but I think overall, I think you can see that I think what happened is when the main trial was done with all large groups, I think most of the patients, I think, which are taken are healthy patients. So we have not enough data for all these small groups like pregnancy related or like autoimmune disease and all. But I think if you try to analyze a little bit, because these are either mRNA based vaccines or they are inactivated viral vector vaccines. So those vaccines are extremely safe for use in other autoimmune diseases. I think immunosuppressants are also other category, I think, where it is people are debating whether it is safe or not. But again, I think you have to just try to see how the rationale behind this, and then I'm sure it is effective in those group as well.
Yeah, because it's not a live vaccine. I think so immunosuppressed people can have it, but I think the response, because they are immunosuppressed, that's why they're not sure about the response.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For this question, please. Is anybody can answer? If any patient who is immunosuppression, either whether he is a multiple sclerosis, multiple thyroiditis, or any cancer treatment, or in radiotherapy, you should not take any immunosuppression at least for 2 weeks before you give the vaccine. And after the vaccine, you should not take any immunosuppression for 2 weeks. Okay? Otherwise, your vaccine will not be active. Vaccine will not available. Vaccine will be not activated, produce any antibody. If you are in immunosuppression, that's the main criteria. If you are taking any immunosuppression, you should be more careful. Other your vaccine will not going to produce any antibody. So it should be 2 weeks of gap of either before you're taking vaccination or after you're taking vaccination.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kal. That was a very good.
Can I add to that?
Yes,
you don't mind. Yeah. Thing is, actually, the only person who cannot stop his medicine is a transplant patient, because a transplant patient, if he stops his medication, he actually might lose his life. So actually, the example is my father-in-law. He's a lung transplant. He's a double lung transplant patient, and basically he's got the Pfizer vaccine. He's getting a second dose today. And I know with his immunosuppressants, he will be producing less antibodies, but at least something is better than nothing. But I guess, so it's all like, so it's good to kind of stay away from immunosuppressants if you can afford it. But I guess if you cannot, then you got to stay off. Yeah. Thank you.
That is a calculated. You have to take that.
That is the reason, I think, why the shielding is so important for this group of patients. I think first thing is they should be shielding from getting exposed to others. But again, I think you have to see how we will go with this thing. Dave, can I just ask another question? I think which is probably people have answered already. I think somebody has asked actually why Pfizer is more used than Moderna. I think probably our panelists have already answered that, because Pfizer came first, and then it was probably the MHRA gave their recommendation earlier. It might be one reason. The second also, I think probably Pfizer and Moderna, they both have the similar principle, both mRNA-based vaccines. But if you see the cost effectiveness of both, or not cost effectiveness, but exactly the cost of those two vaccines, I think Moderna is a bit more on the expensive side. I think that costs around anything between $25 to $40, I think, per vaccine. But Pfizer is around $18 to $19 per vaccine. So I think there may be a bit of a cost implications as well. But again, I think we are not discussing about the cost here, because most of these vaccines are coming free to individuals at this stage. So, but that is another piece of information that I think we need to know.
Yeah, the Oxford is the sort of cheapest one with the $4.
Yeah, Oxford
just
is
having
$4.
a coffee in a fancy place.
That's correct.
So it's like buying a coffee.
Yeah.
So Oxford, and that's why it's more popular, I think, widely used.
And Novavax, I think when it will be ready, probably they say that it will be costing around $15 to $16 for Novavax, and Jensen is around $10. So those are probably the price category. I think when they will be available. So that is just for information.
Excellent.
Maybe you can take the next question, please. Yeah.
Dr. Tahir, he has raised his hand.
Yeah.
Whether he wants to speak and say something.
He's not muted.
Is he muted? You want to unmute if you want to say something?
Dr. Tahir?
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what I wanted to say was in response to the very first question, which was raised by which was answered by the obstetrician. I think they mentioned that there will be disastrous consequences for both the mother and the child if they remain unprotected. But I'm happy to actually inform you, being a pediatrician, and Dr. Mohanty, who's my senior, will agree with me, that actually the risk to the newborn baby is very minimal. We have had several COVID positive babies. One of them was a child that we actually wrote a paper about in BMJ Pediatrics Open. And following that, we have had some more as well.
Yeah.
And actually the risk to the baby is very minimal. So yes, the risk to the mother is quite high, but the risk to a COVID positive baby being there is minimal, and they're in fact allowed to roam in with the mother and even take breastfeeds. Thank you.
Yeah, this baby stayed positive for a long time. This baby had a lot of positive tests.
Yes, thank you for the response. But what I was trying to actually say was that, when moms get infected, if they don't do well, the babies will not do well. If the mom is going to be intubated because of COVID-related pneumonia, the baby is definitely at danger. That is what I was trying to say. I agree with the maternal fetal transmission rate is low. And we've also had many positive patients who delivered. Babies did excellent with actually negative COVID impact on them. Absolutely no COVID virus in the babies. There was one other question I think somebody asked about the trimesters and the safety data on pregnant women and vaccine. Unfortunately, none of the vaccine trials included pregnant women in their trials, which is actually something that should not have been done. Personally, as a mom, as well as a person who takes care of pregnant women, I think most vaccine trials should have taken pregnant women, because that would have benefited and allayed a lot of fears in a lot of people. However, having said that, right now the safety data in pregnant women, many pregnant women have already been vaccinated, and there has not been any side effect nor any deaths reported in pregnant women who have received. In America, we have had more than 30,000-40,000 pregnant women who have already been vaccinated. So, and they can get the vaccine in any trimester.
Let me just chip in here. Getting a little bit open. Let Rabin, myself, and Santosh Bhai moderate the questions, and everybody keep the mic mute, please. Raise your hand if you have questions. I don't want open mic for everybody. It will be chaos. To answer, skip it to 40 seconds maximum, so that the other person, we can get to other questions. Okay, please mute everybody except Rabin, you can unmute. Santosh Bhai, you can unmute, and we'll get to the questions. Please raise your hand if you have questions. Thank you. Anybody has, Rabin or Santosh Bhai, if you have questions, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there was, some discussions, emerging there. I think why there is a bit of a variations in the outcome. Like we know that probably US and UK, we didn't do well. But countries like New Zealand, Singapore, and Australia, or particularly even in India, if you say, I think things went well. So I think what are the rationale or reason behind these variations? I think some discussions were going around. So do anybody wants to take that question? Or do you want me to start and then we can add?
Yeah, probably you can start, please.
So I think probably in this question, I think there are few things to just remember, that probably we are talking of a probably slightly different population altogether. I think if you look at the population of UK, I think the elderly population is slightly higher in comparison to what we even saw in India. I think what Meena has presented, I think there was a bit of a younger population there. So probably there is a population risk or the variations in the populations. And also I think the elderly patients, I think mostly in India and all, I think they are looked after at home. But here the care homes probably are the one biggest problem with where the situations had gone wrong. And so probably I think there is a bit of a difference in the population and the type of care that we all receive. So probably that is one of the important variations in outcome. And then probably I think we talk about the climate and all those things, how much that played a part also. We need to think about those things. So there are a few things I think that we need to think of.
I think, can I add one more bit?
Yes, Sadev, yes.
The other bit is actually the innate immunity. If you think about it, compared to UK or US, people in India are exposed to a lot more infections in general that do increase your innate immunity. Having said all that, it still remains mystery why the threat is low. And therefore, there are centers. I know one of my friends in Chandigarh is looking at a huge study, the difference between Punjabis in Punjab and Punjabis outside Punjab, like in UK and US. It will be an interesting study to learn the details of it. So watch this space.
Thank you.
I have a
Can
question.
I add one thing?
Go ahead.
I know that we probably in the UK and USA, we go by evidence-based medicine and we would not trial drugs that quickly. But in India, as we know, they tried hydroxychloroquine, they tried ivermectin, they tried a cocktail of medications. So it might be that some things were more effective there for that reason. Another reason why we did quite poorly here in UK and in USA also, we did not close our borders quickly enough. I traveled from India last February and I saw that in India they had started checking, whereas in in UK, in Heathrow, I was just allowed to come in. There was no checking, nothing being done. So probably all that being, that has helped, I think. And I'm so glad that it does.
I think, Lipi, those are all political decisions. They say they're following scientific advice. So probably
I think
that becomes more political.
I think another important thing, I think they say that I think when we try to intervene also with this treatment of these viruses, when you use a lot of this convalescent serum, I think with the antibodies there, I think sometimes I think that might cause a bit of a mutation. And we do not know. I think probably in UK, I think we did the genomic sequencing bit earlier and then we got all those UK variants and all those stuff. But sometimes they say that this convalescent serum itself can trigger a bit of a genetic mutation. And in India, we don't know whether those less mutations are happening or probably better mutations are happening, which is protecting. So we do not know those things.
We have Professor Senapati.
Can I just add one bit from the Singapore perspective? I think we all know that Singapore is very strong in contact tracing, in tracing and isolating. And we were very strict with once we traced the patients and their contacts, we would isolate them strictly for 14 days. Meaning initially you would not be able to step out of your house, and even the room you were monitored. There were video cameras to monitor you. And after, I think around March, you are strictly isolated in a hotel for 14 days, which is going on even now. Anyone returning to Singapore, it happens.
So let me.
Senapati, you want to say anything?
We have
one of the key things coming up, when you look at the risk factors and death from COVID, one is important, the age, then diabetes and comorbidities. The other thing coming up big time is obesity. And if you look into the incidence of obesity, it is probably 5 to 10% in India. Whereas in Europe, it is around 25% with BMI more than 30. Whereas in USA, it is 40% obese with BMI 30. And a lot of studies published show that obesity is a risk factor. And like a couple of things. One, obesity is a state of chronic disease. You have the active adipokines and interferons are less. There is impaired immunity. So whenever you get the cytokine storm with your COVID, there is multiple severe damage to different organs. Thirdly, there is infiltration of fat to every part of the body, including the diaphragm. So your diaphragmatic excursion is limited. Then you need oxygen supplement and it go to in the intensive care unit where you need the support, and that we know increases the mortality. So obesity is an important factor that may be partly responsible with the distribution of mortality.
Yeah, Dr. Singh, Aditya Singh, you want to say something?
Yeah, hello. I know we are talking about COVID, which is still quite unpredictable. A lot of things have left unanswered, like why is affecting more people here, why less people in India. The thing we have seen here is more of Black, Asian, and minority people are getting affected. And the same people who are living here are not being affected in India. So that is one thing. And the other thing is, which Ms. Yobai said about obesity, 70 to 80% people admitted to our ITU, they're all obese people. So again, obesity, as we know, is one of the major problems. So
Okay,
that's
thank
the main
you.
observation.
Yeah. Any other
Thank you.
questions, Dev?
Yeah, exactly. And somebody has raised a hand waiting patiently, I think Bhagyashri. After that, we'll go to the question.
Yeah.
Raise your hand and don't just get in while others are waiting.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Devbhai. I just have one question. I think it's for Dr. Mishra from India. So lately, I've been talking to or probably interviewing a lot of people who had the vaccine in India. And one of the, I actually trolled in Facebook for, so that the doctor said about Covaxin. Now, the Lancet study, which was published on 22nd of January, that discusses about the immunogenicity and efficacy of phase 1 trial of the Covaxin. But phase 2 and phase 3 trial, I think from my knowledge, the result has not been published, or maybe the phase 3 trial is not been done. So the question, I think I've had this question from some people from here as well, that is the vaccine only rolled out on an emergency basis? If yes, then will it be given the population, I mean the local people of India, or it's only for frontliners until we get the data for phase 3 trial?
This is a question for India, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, Samrendra Mishra, are you there?
Yeah. Okay, just to add that at the moment, there has been equal distribution of Covishield and Covaxin for all frontline workers and healthcare. I understand that same plan will continue for the general population, because after, as I said, after 5.5 million injections, we don't see any kind of an adverse reaction to it. So it is as good as a clinical trial phase 3. Yes, you are right. We don't have completion of phase 3 trials data yet. But from the safety point of issues, I don't think. The only thing is we may have a little bit of plus minus on the efficacy level. But as far as safety goes, we have seen it, it's okay. And I think the same will be rolled out to the general public also.
Thank you.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
I have a public question here, direct from the people. I have heart problem and I take a lot of medications for my heart and heart rate. What should I do with the COVID vaccine? Atash Naik?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Devashish, and very good presentation by the speakers and the moderators. So coming to the question, if somebody has a heart disease and taking the medication, whether it is anti-arrhythmic therapy in the sense to prevent tachycardia, if they are taking some medications, they are ME order and other things, then they have to be very careful when they have COVID infection, because they are, in some of the studies we have seen, there are 10 to 15% of people can have a tachycardia, the increased heart rate, like we call it in the medical term polymorphic tachycardia, and they can die from that. So this happens because they can have the prolonged QT interval, which is one of the electrical interval in the EKG that we monitor. So those people have to be very, very careful. Particularly, they should avoid some medications which can prolong the QT interval causing this tachycardia, like they should avoid like azithromycin. And another thing, in India, a lot of my friends, and I think everybody used to take hydroxychloroquine as a prophylaxis. That can also prolong this interval and causing this tachycardia. So they have to be very careful. They should see their primary care doctor and follow up with cardiologist regularly, because it can kill somebody can die from that.
Thank you. Robin or Santosh bhai, have any questions from?
Yeah, I think I would share probably a bit of a concern about from the UK public because of the spacing of the doses. I think, I think probably there is a lot of discussions going on. I think it might be worth sharing. I think there's a bit of a disturbances there.
Some echoing somewhere.
Yeah. So I think the question arose, I think probably here, considering the number of deaths and everything, I think there was a decision made that probably you should try and reach to bigger population. But at the same time, I think the people who had taken the first vaccine did not get the second vaccinations in specified time range. I think that caused a lot of discussions and all. So I think basing on this, I think probably the US tackle this situation much better. I think they stick to the principle of what Pfizer and Moderna has advised, but UK took a bit of a different approach. So whether that was right or wrong, I think probably if you talk about evidence, then that is wrong. But I think what they did is, I think they are trying to space it out to 12 weeks. I think the only evidence I think recently emerged from the, I think Oxford AstraZeneca, that probably your immunity is still there or your antibody response is still there for 12 weeks to give the second dose of vaccinations. But we still do not know much about Pfizer and Moderna. But I think the recent trial, I would just tell one line about this. I think now the Oxford group is doing a trial called COMCOVE trial. I think they're trying to make all these vaccinations in a permutation and combination. So I think probably the Pfizer vaccine will be given, say, in 3 weeks' time and 3 months' time. Similarly, AstraZeneca will be given in 3 weeks and 3 months' time. But at the same time, the first and second dose will be swapped with each other. Like somebody will take a Pfizer jab, and then the second dose will be a AstraZeneca or other way around. So I think this trial has just started in Oxford in February, and we may get a bit of a more information whether this combination is effective and not. So probably I think that would probably put us to a lot of people.
Yeah, the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine is also participating in the research. So they have recruited thousands of patients now. I think they are trying to mix and match. And we'll know, we don't know yet, but we will find out what the efficacy of those combinations.
Same thing again, if somebody is allergy or any allergic reaction to Pfizer or biotech, he can take or she can take the AstraZeneca, is the second dose. There is a permission and combination they have started now.
Yeah, I have a question on that. It's a good question. I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
So there's another question, I think, for two countries. If someone has taken a vaccination, the COVID vaccination, when should they take the regular vaccination? It's for USA as well as India. Whoever can answer this. Can Lippy answer that? Please mute. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi. I think there should be a 1 week gap. That is what we have been advising our patients. So say they have taken the flu jab, they should have at least a week's gap between that and the COVID vaccination. That's as far as I know, that's what we've been advising patients, have that 1 week gap. Otherwise, yes, you can have your vaccinations.
Here in Singapore, we are advising 2 weeks gap between your flu vaccine or any other vaccine.
In UK, it is 1 week.
Yeah, in USA, we are also advising 2 weeks, whether 2 weeks before or after. So if they have taken flu vaccine, not to take the COVID vaccine for 2 weeks, or they've taken COVID vaccine, not to take the flu vaccine for 2 weeks.
Exactly. And India, Mina is there. Mina ke samar bhai, anyone take, what's the thing in India going on?
Yeah, at least 3 to 4 weeks is what is being advised generally between both vaccines, because antibodies would take 2 weeks to start. So it's at least 3 to 4 weeks what's being currently advised.
Thank you. The next direct question is, can I stop wearing a face mask after taking COVID vaccine? Sangeeta, you want to take it? Sangeeta Pradhan?
Definitely not. You continue wearing it.
I think we all agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether Sangeeta is there or not, but I think what the Oxford vaccine, what they have seen, it's still, they have seen that it reduces the transmission the new studies have showed that it reduces the transmission. Still, we are not sure about it. I think I will go with the wearing the mask.
Right.
I think that is a consensus.
Another very simple question is that I took my second COVID vaccine. What should I be aware of? Side effects. Vasant Bhai, I think you are a glaring example. Vasant Mahapatra?
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I mute correctly. Well, can you read the question again?
So the question is there any side effect after taking COVID vaccine second dose?
Well, side effect move the answer टा लिखिथिली जाने भी पठेइथिले. Yes, if that is side effect, that will be it comes. It came to me 36 hours पर मते आसिला. के जणु 24 hours पर आसी. You can have just chills, fever, headache like this, and it may go severe myalgia ही पारे. मते एमिति हला कि मु गोटे दिन ऑफ नेली. So after that, after 24 hours suffering, it's over, or 24 to even maybe 48 hours. But the stepin derivan, this is nothing, nothing much. And only some people have only soreness, like first dose. But it's good. If you have that, it's good. It shows your immune reaction.
Yeah, I think they have seen more side effects.
Yeah, there is a
more side effects with the second dose.
Yeah.
They have seen more side effects with the second dose, particularly the people who had COVID and they had the first dose.
Yeah.
And when they got the second dose, they had more side effects than the people who didn't have COVID. So that's what they have found. So they are suggesting, some people are suggesting just to have one vaccine after COVID infection.
Even these side effects, let's not give impression to people. The side effects is dangerous. Side effects is good. You don't have to worry. No, you may take a day off. No, nobody dying from side effects. So I would say nobody should be worried about side effects. But be prepared. You may have fever, chills, or something. You may take a day off. But
That is another question that another person. If I develop after the vaccine, is that good or bad? Related to the question. The reactions wasn't.
Yeah. No. Bija can say.
Yeah. Thing is, actually, the more you react, the better your immune system. So I guess you should be happy if you have a good reaction. And the ones who react the least, you'll have to kind of wonder, did my immune system really get it? So don't worry about the reaction. I think the more you react, the better you are. Just take some anti-inflammatories, after 12 hours. They say not to take like Aleve, ibuprofen, or Brufen before the shot. They say get the second shot, get your reaction, then you can take something to kind of bring it down.
Can I add a little bit? The side effects always you talk about. If you compare between Pfizer, BioNTech versus Moderna, the side effects are little more with Moderna. If you look at local tenderness, fatigue, headache, fever, chill, definitely it is little more with Moderna. The reason being, what we think the amount of mRNA in Pfizer is about 30 microgram. The mRNA dose in Moderna is 100 microgram. That may be one of the reason. Side effects are little more, but both the medications are safe. So whichever is available, we should take it. Another point I just wanted to mention about the anaphylaxis. People always talk about like severe allergic reaction with anaphylaxis. The incidence is about like 11 per 100 million doses with Pfizer, and with Moderna it is less, actually 2.5 per 100 million doses. And most of the time the anaphylaxis occurs 85% of the time within first half an hour. Even they recommend all of everybody should be monitored for 15 minutes after the vaccination. And of course, EpiPen and all these things should be available in all the sites.
Can I add something more?
Yes.
Yeah. This all Pfizer and biotech, they contain propylene glycol as a preservative. So anybody who is allergic to propylene glycol, they should not take Pfizer or biotech, because some of the medicine is coming with as a preservative propylene glycol. So they always be aware, if somebody is allergic to propylene glycol, you should not take. You can take the other vaccines.
Yeah, it's a very
I
important
think that
point.
is the CDC advice. I think that is the CDC advice.
I just want to make it simple what Ajit is talking about. Who are the people who are allergic to this PEG? Particularly, it is given for colonoscopy preparation. If somebody is allergic to the colonoscopy preparation, then he should not take, he or she should not take this vaccine. Remember that drugs they give for the colonoscopy preparation has PEG, and that if somebody is allergic, they should not take this vaccination.
Excellent. There's a very common question. Is a smoker more at risk for COVID or COVID vaccines? Who want to take that? We have any pulmonary? Santosh, Sanjay, are you there? Or anybody volunteers want to take it?
I think this paper has published about a few years. I don't know. Dr. Sanjay Agarwal is there. I don't know. He can answer better than me because the paper was published about last November, where it has been published that the people with the heavy smoker, they get less COVID infection. But how far it has been true, they have not validated yet.
I think the common thing is probably the severity will be more because the lungs is already damaged. So with COVID, the lungs will be, that's the common thing.
The reason is that they have given the explanation of that paper was that while they're doing the heavy smoker, they have already lung is damaged and they have developed a layer of nicotine layer in the lungs, and the virus does not get more affected when the virus goes to the lungs.
So even people with asthma or COPD like symptom did not see any really increase in the incidence of COVID than general people. So we don't know. Yeah,
maybe more severe.
We don't know yet. This is only one paper has published.
I think it's more severity than incidence probably.
I think. Yeah. You wanted to say something? You want to pitch in something? Add in something there? No?
Yeah. Do you want me to read out the next question? I think there is something. It's coming up. I think there was a bit of a discussion came on the chart as well on vaccine hesitancy. I think shall we talk about it a little bit more? I think just to give a bit of an introduction, I think, a lot of countries have got vaccine rollout policies and different way of engaging public and how to involve public for a better uptake. And there will be always, I think, a group of people who are anti-vaxxers will always be there. I think I would just go to a recent publication that came, I think a European survey that has been done. And surprisingly, I think in UK, the vaccine positivity is probably around 70%. And then the lowest came was France. I think it was around 30%, I think probably the vaccine uptake. So I think there is a bit of a shift, but at least I was happy to see probably the UK population was much more proactive in taking vaccines than our European friends. I'm not sure about US statistics or anything I didn't see, but I think I would encourage some, or I would welcome some views from US as well.
I think that survey showed a higher basically uptake in UK. 70%, as you said. I think French people are more hesitant. So that's what the perception is. But as you know, as time goes, probably you might get more response because some people are waiting. The theory is some people are seeing others to get the vaccine, then see what happens. Then they will be more prone to get it. That's what I think the common theme that is coming out.
Yeah, I think that is a reason I think we all should say, I think that all these ODIA doctors, we have taken vaccines and we are all right and right in front of you. So please take your vaccines and then move on.
Yeah, Santosh Bhai, I can just add on to what you said. In USA, definitely the vaccine hesitancy rate is going down. Where I live here in Houston, the last week, the statistics is the vaccine hesitancy is about 24% in city of Houston. And mostly the African Americans and the Hispanic people, they are, the hesitancy rate is very high among these two groups compared to whites or Asians and all. But overall in the USA, the hesitancy rate is dropping significantly because the number of, as you know, the death numbers are still more than 3,000 people are dying every single day in the US, where we had only 3,000 deaths in 9/11 in 2001. So I think it is going to get better.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, people are just getting good examples. That's
I
what
mean, I just wanted to add two things. The hesitancy has got two layers, like you all said. There are some core groups, other are less hesitant. They're just waiting who is getting into the line queue first. So that as the number goes up, I think that will go down. And what definitely does help, the leaders coming up and showing that example, that does help. So that's where we can intervene.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, Vijay, I think you are waiting to say something.
Yeah, the thing is, hesitancy, you got two groups. One is a group that actually wants to see how everybody does, and they'll get it in 3 months. So in 3 months, they'll all get it. There'll be a small fraction that will never get the vaccine, whatever happens to anything. So those folks you cannot really convince. That's gone. That may be just 1%, or maybe actually not even 1%, maybe even less than that.
Yeah. That's correct. And they will oppose to any vaccines, not only COVID, for any vaccines.
They will say, everybody has taken the vaccine. What's the point of I am taking the vaccines? Everybody is protected.
Your voice is dropping. We can't hear you very clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Here, I called our over 80 age group patients, and I was so heartened. Every single one of them wanted to have it. What I've noticed is as we are going towards a younger cohort, some of them feel that it won't affect them that badly. Hence, they are not that that keen to take it. But I think, as Santosh Bhai said, in UK, mostly people are willing to have it, but we see less of uptake in our Black and Asian populations, which we are trying to resolve by approaching them directly, talking to them, getting celebrities who belong to these groups, ethnicities, to talk to them directly. So yes, I think it's a question of, as more and more people take it, the fears will go too.
Yeah. I think there is another question, probably, if you are not going. The new variants, people are asking about the new variants, why the transmission rate is high. So I don't know, I have got just two answers. Basically, what I learned is the viral load is high in the new variants, what I have seen. If you are sneezing and coughing, the viral load is high in the new variants I have seen. The second one, I think they have found a new receptor, ACE2 receptor, and they found these new variants have found the new receptor to attach to it. So I think that these are the two explanations that I have heard about. If anyone wants to add on it.
Yeah, I think, Robin, I think the one thing is, I think when the Kent variant came, I think probably in September or September it came out. And I think in UK, I think we were a bit fortunate because all the PCRs that we are doing in UK, automatically 10% they go to sequencing, as I told you. And that is the reason I think why we are able to get this, I think the variant genes very quickly in UK. That is one thing. And the second thing is, I think probably the mutations that is happening are still in a very small extent. So the vaccines are still effective against these variations. I think probably when the mutations will keep on happening, then at one stage, I think the spike protein antibodies that we will be producing or to the conventional vaccinations may not work with this, but we are not there yet. So probably, I think, as you said, I think probably there is something to do with their transmissibility, I think, which clearly was high in the Kent variant. And that's the reason, I think, why I think Kent and Medway affected quite severe in that episode particularly.
Yeah, I think there are more than 4,000 variants now.
I was about to ask the question, but you answered it.
Yeah.
But there are some short questions because we are almost hitting now 2 hours, 50 minutes. We have almost to 200 people still here, and you two, I'm picking up 3 questions. Yes or no, just give a short answer. One is Swayam Pragya Parida. Can people with dust allergy take vaccine? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Has anyone, JP Mahanti, has anyone become COVID positive after taking the vaccine? Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
It can be positive. It may not be because of the vaccine, but can be COVID positive.
There is a small possibility it can happen.
Yeah.
I am after vaccine. I am get suffer. I get COVID after
Yes.
vaccine.
Yeah.
It can happen.
Yeah.
You can get COVID after taking the first dose of vaccine or so, or even after second dose.
Yeah.
But vaccine does not cause COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
People have to
Yes.
remember COVID vaccine. So somebody got COVID, it's not from the vaccine.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's that. Yeah.
And
Message.
I think probably the other thing also we should say to those public, in all those big trials, I think which had say 30 to 40,000 of people which went into that phase 3 trial, I think we saw COVID positivity both in the placebo group as well as in the cases. And that is how, even if you take COVID, it's not 100% successful that you will not get COVID. So I think that they should remember.
Yeah.
And we just hope that if you do get the infection again, it won't be as
serious.
The next short question, yes or no? Okay. Coronary artery disease patient on aspirin, can they take vaccine? Do they have to stop aspirin for a few days before vaccination? Atosh Naik.
Yes, yes. They can take, if they are on aspirin, if they are on Coumadin, if they are on, DAPT, like, both antiplatelet drugs, or they are on Xarelto, or they are on Eliquis, they can take vaccine. Only thing they have to be careful if they are on Coumadin or warfarin, if the INR is very, very high, like more than 10, they have to be very careful. Injection can cause local hematoma, but it does not matter. If they are on anticoagulation or antiplatelet drugs, there is no contraindication. They should take vaccine because they have coronary artery disease, they have pre-existing condition. They should take and they must.
Excellent. I think
So positive. We should give vaccine to them.
So I think we are now 2 hours 53 minutes. So I think we have exhausted questions, and there are some questions, but I think we have to wrap up at some point. Please send us email. We'll answer your questions. And this was a wonderful involvement, everybody here, and we answered all your questions. And I would thank everyone and for being with us. And we'll continue further also periodically. And I would like Dr. Sucharita Mahanti to give the vote of thanks.
Dr. Sucharita Hota, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, good evening, everyone. And we have now come to the end of our presentations. I hope all of you have enjoyed the seminar and you found it very informative. I would like to start by thanking all of you, our wonderful audience, who have logged in from all over the world across various time zones. Some of you have stayed up late and some of you have tuned in very early on a Saturday morning to participate in this webinar. Thank you for staying with us. I would like to thank all our presenters for coming together from all over the world and putting together this presentation. We hope this has addressed concerns of many of you with regards to the various COVID-19 vaccines which are available now. I would like to now thank the organizers of the seminar and the webinar review committee, Dr. Lipi Pradhan, Dr. Sangeeta Pradhan, Dr. Atasu Naik, Dr. Santosh Patnaik, Dr. Jyoti, Dr. Vijay Thomas, Dr. Aditya Singh, Dr. Basan Mahapatra, Mr. Nagesh Rajanala, Dr. Devashish Rai, and our excellent moderator and coordinator, Dr. Rabin Mohanty. Our IT team, I would like to thank our brilliant IT team, Mr. Nagesh and Mrs. Ritanjali Patnaik, who have made this possible to create this large platform via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube, enabling us to reach out to you, our global audience today. I would like to thank our social media team, Dr. Tapti Panda and Dr. Sambit Das and Dr. Chandrasekhar Khuntia, for creating and putting up this awesome seminar, teaser videos, and globalizing the social media presence of Odisha Doctors International Association, who have made it possible to connect, communicate, and engage with our global audience today. This is no mean task, I must say. I would like to thank our brand ambassador, Mr. Sabyasachi Mishra, actor and humanitarian, for his continued support, guidance to Odisha Doctors International Association. And last but not the least, I would like to thank Dr. Devashish Rai, our overall organizer, for conceptualizing, organizing, and executing this tremendous event. Remember, hand hygiene, masking, social distancing, take the vaccine when your turn comes. And now I would like to hand over the mic to Dr. Devashish Rai.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank also Rabin for wonderfully coordinating and partnering with me. Santosh Bhai, Atush Bhai, everybody here and what she mentioned, and specifically Sucharita Manti, you too. I have to thank you too. And thank you, everybody, and namaskar.